Good evening. My name is Eric Lindstrom. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetland meeting for the town of Monroe. Today is March 12th, and it is 6:35 p.m. Will everyone please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll take a roll call of the members of the commission and staff present during tonight's hybrid meeting. Please answer here or present, starting with myself, Eric Lindstrom, Chairman, Brian Kelly, Vice Chairman. Here. Rick Smith. Here. Jim Stewart, Professional Engineer. Here. Benjamin Sabia, Secretary. Here. Paul Fernandez. Here. Mark Zamory. Here. Kathleen Gallagher, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Here. And Andrew Brotman, Inland Wetlands Enforcement Officer. Here. Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetland Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetland and watercourses within the town of Monroe. Please note that this meeting is being conducted utilizing electronic equipment in compliance with State Law Public Act 21-1. As such, this meeting is being recorded and will be available to the public in compliance with state law. If you are attending remotely, please remember to mute your microphone unless speaking. Anyone participating remotely should state their name and title, if applicable, at the outset of each occasion, such that each person is speaking. All votes taken during which any member of this body are participating remotely shall be by roll call unless the vote is unanimous. The chat features will not be utilized nor considered during this meeting. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. I ask that the applicants keep their presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town, staff, and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro, in opposition, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Please keep comments or questions direct, or a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add 2 items to the agenda if I could. IWC 2024-10-A1, file number 1506. It's 100 Cross Hill Road. I'd like to add that in for public or for an application acceptance.
Is that number again?
IWC 2024-10-A1.
Motion to add to the agenda.
I'll second that motion to add to the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
And I'd like to add IWR 2025-01, which is 20 Lorraine Drive, to the enforcement portion.
That is on the current agenda, right? It's on there, right?
I see it on the current agenda.
What's the address?
20 Lorraine Drive?
Oh, it's on there, yeah.
It's on there.
It's on there?
Motion needed.
Okay. Yeah, I found it. All right. At this time, we'd like to ask if there's any public participation. Anybody want to come up and speak in a general nature about something not for us this evening? Anyone in the chambers? Anyone online? Okay, we're moving on to regulated activities. So this, I guess, first on the list here is IWC 2024-10-A1, file number 1506, 100 Cross Hill Road. Modify a permit. Gary Perone, applicant, FP Carpentry LL, representative. Anybody here for that?
Representative is not here tonight. It's for the application acceptance. It was an application that's proposing to modify the size of the stormwater retention system that was previously approved, and they're reducing the size of the stormwater retention system. In doing so, it puts the system further away from the wetlands and reduces the amount of disturbance near the wetlands. The new system proposes to retain the stormwater from the addition and leaving the existing residence as is. So the existing residence was not originally, the existing residence stormwater was tied into this system. And they are proposing to just take care of the stormwater on the addition.
Okay.
In doing so, they could reduce the amount of stormwater retention.
Is the original permit a public hearing?
It was a regular hearing.
Is it am I remembering correctly? It wasn't that long ago.
Correct.
This application, and we were kind of teetering on agent approval versus regular hearing. Do I remember that correctly?
Correct.
I do remember that. Did we decide, did we have some comments about that back then?
No, it was pretty straight.
Now, I could tell you this, the proposed system was over-designed, over-engineered, according to our engineer.
Right.
It was over-engineered, and then the proposal or the drawing that you see in front of you is under-engineered. So it has to go back for the proper amount.
This is too light.
So they reduced it from a three-part system. They went ahead and they turned it into a one-chamber system. And according to the engineer's calculations, that was going to be sufficient. According to our engineer, the calculation was incorrect, and they need two retention systems.
Has James reviewed this yet?
He has reviewed it.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. James DeMeo, town engineer. So essentially they had 3 Coltech chambers. It was oversized for what the requirements were. They reduced it down to 1, but the engineer is using the wrong credit per unit, wrong volume. So essentially, based upon my review, they need 2. It's in the exact same location. Nothing else has changed. So they're just trying to bring it back into a little bit. So it's going to be kind of split in the difference, but just know like what you approved is kind of the biggest that it's going to be. It's going to be smaller than that.
Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
So what do we have in front of us? Do we have what has been corrected, or this still needs corrections?
It still needs corrections. I just got them. I just got a chance to review it today. But again, you're just accepting it right now and determining what level of hearing you want.
Does the staff feel like they can deal with this?
Administratively?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe we make it agent approval under the conditions that Jim is satisfied with the modification. Right?
James?
That's fine by staff.
You okay with that? We have the motion for that?
Yes.
We have the motion for that.
I'll make a motion for agent approval
Any conditions or
under the conditions that any concerns by town engineer DeMayo are met and satisfied.
as well as Thomas.
But if it's processed as an agent approval, though, it can't get an agent approval unless both Andrew and James signed off on it.
So we have a,
So the only condition is that it's to be reviewed by me and the engineer.
I'll second that motion.
Who made the motion?
Motion by Commissioner Kelly. Second by Commissioner Zammering. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Now, moving on to regular meeting, IWC 2025-2, file number 1522, 46 Huntingtown Road, repair Gusky Pond Dam, Town of Monroe, applicant James DeMayo, town engineer, representative.
So nothing really new to add in comparison to the last meeting. Other than I've met some contractors and I'm in the process of getting final numbers, but most of them are even anticipating just like the construction taking about a week. So that's pretty good. But that's where we're at right now. So again, unless anybody has any questions, just trying to rebuild the dam that blew out on August 18th.
Question for you. The bypass you're putting in the 24-inch pipe,
Yep.
you're obviously got to dig that into the ground.
So it's going to have to go through some of the ground. In some areas, it could actually lay on top of the ground.
Okay.
So it inside the main pond area, or what used to be the pond area, it can actually pretty much lay on the ground with minor surface changes. They may need to like flatten it out a little bit or do a little bit, but a bulk of the burial will happen inside the berm in order to get it down and around.
Okay. So are you good? Are you planning on leaving that in when you're done for future use, or is it going to be dug back out again?
So through that main berm where we do have to bury it, we are anticipating leaving most of it in, but we have to build back. So we're going to cap it, and then we're going to basically bury it a few feet to make sure that doesn't become a breach in the future. Because I don't want to create another weak point. So we're going to end up sealing that up.
So it'll have to be used again.
So in the hopes, yeah, in the event it could potentially be used again. But all the pipe that's inside the pond area, that all gets removed.
What do we got to mitigate beaver buildup? Is there anything we should be doing that, or what are we doing to facilitate? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a ever losing battle in most towns and every town. Right now, that beaver dam is actually helping us by maintaining the water level in that main area. So the hope would be that once that water can equalize between that main area and what appears more like a lower area right now, that water should equalize it between the two, and that's when we can pull out any debris that's left in there. But until then, it's kind of difficult. And then I know we've been actively trying to dissuade beavers And the new location, so beavers like the sound of the running water. So the only new place where that sound is going to occur is at the new dam and where that weir is, which again, we have perfect access right up to it to be able to continually keep it clean.
Now, there's a certain beaver designs where you put pipes in underwater so it makes no noise. Is that something you've looked into?
Yeah, I have. I've looked into that. The problem is so a lot of those, I know in the past, actually at this location, they've tried to lay perforated pipes horizontally down at the water's, the basically the bed of the pond. And so that this way it wouldn't create a sound. But apparently from the individuals I've talked to is they found it anyway. And even there's other designs where, you kind of do have the horizontal pipe, but then you 90 a pipe up to the surface. Again, that perforated pipe will, depending upon the water elevation, it'll run, they find it, they clog it. Everybody I've talked to, I've tried to talk to a lot of other towns too, to see what and nobody's had a really good solution. Fortunately, nature finds a way.
Now, Jim, is this actually a registered dam with DEP?
It is now, yeah. It should have been, but it never was, just because it was never really known. And then when I submitted after the storm, I submitted everything to FEMA and Deep. They basically came back. They're like, "This is a dam." I'm like, "Yeah," and then that actually ate up 3 months. That actually ate up 3 months of me trying to get this approved. Was just getting it registered. Then once I got it registered, then it got approved, and actually I just got word that we got approved for the funding as well. So,
And you have to, what class is it?
I want to say it's A.
Okay, so you don't have to do any annual inspections and all this stuff.
No,
Okay. Lucky you.
yeah, yeah. It's nothing crazy. It's minor due to everything downstream. There's very little downstream that. It's not like there's a house right down the stream.
Anybody else?
Oh, but it does do a lot of damage, did a lot of damage in August. I just want to make sure, I'm sure that James is doing the best he can and much better job than we should expect maybe, but I just, if there's anything we could do to help it so that we can easily clean it out, that would be great.
Yeah.
Obviously, because as you know, the beavers will be back and they will dam it up, and so just have to anticipate that. So
Yeah,
whether it's annual,
I do believe that we're going to be once this gets reconstructed, we're going to be, the town is positioning themselves in a much better place to be able to deal with any potential areas that the beavers dam up. Easy access with the bigger machines so that people don't get hurt, and be able to get rid of the wood and everything like that. So
great. So what do we got, a motion to carry on?
Motion to close the regular hearing and move into deliberations, and then we'll revisit it when we hit the deliberation part.
You can deliberate tonight.
Yes, we could deliberate tonight.
I move that we go into deliberations, whatever else you need me to say.
Motion by Commissioner Smith to close the hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous? He doesn't like that.
Never happened.
The answer is
Do not.
no.
Speaker. Not answer.
You gotta answer.
From inside the building.
Want to see if you want to sell the town hall.
Checking on the car's extended warranty. All right, moving on. All right, we have public hearing IWC 2025-01, file number 1518, 1314 Monroe Turnpike. Proposed 13 lot single family residential cluster development with new road and drainage facilities, Bird's Eye Estates LLC applicant, J. Edwards and Associates LLC representative.
You have to read it in the record.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's see. Okay, so in accordance with CGS Section 8-7D, public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. or soon thereafter via hybrid Zoom. And in person, attendees located at Monroe Town Hall, Council Chambers, 7 Fan Hill Road, Monroe, Connecticut, 06468, concerning the following: IWC-2025-01, file number 1518 for 1314 Monroe Turnpike, proposed lot single-family residential cluster development with new road and drainage facilities, Bird's Eye Estates LLC applicant, J. Edwards and Associate LLC representative. This was published in the Connecticut Post on February 26th of 2025 and March 5th of 2025.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Jason Edwards, J. Edwards and Associates, Engineers and Surveyors, located at 2.7 Stepney Road in Easton. Everybody hear me okay?
Is there a lights, Eric?
Something like
That seemed kind of dark. I don't know if there is.
No, I got it.
share the screen.
Oh, boy.
This property is located on the east side of the Monroe Turnpike, just below, before you get to the castle. The property they have there, where it's a farm, been there for a long time. It still is in operation now. It's about 30 acres. That we are proposing part of the subdivision. I've got highlighted here. It's at the end of the existing subdivision that we known as Bird's Eye Estates. Bird's Eye Drive comes to that sort of a T intersection. This is Bird's Eye Drive here, comes up and it ends right here in a cul-de-sac. In around 2006, there was a subdivision done to create this single lot here at the end. And at that point, the road was actually approved to extend there. That was never constructed, was never even bonded or anything. How that happened, but it was approved through Wetlands and planning and building.
When was that approved?
It was 2006, roughly. This is just kind of what I stated, but the current zoning is RF2, which is the 2-acre residential zone in town. Directly to the south is the Bird's Eye Estates, which actually goes RR, which allows for higher density development. I think they go down to like 30,000 square foot lots. Open space requirement. We're proposing to go under the cluster regulation, which similarly allows for a reduction in lot size. We can go down to 50% of the allowed zoning, which gives us down to 1 acre. I think all these lots are larger than that, so we could go down a little. But the requirement, I think, is 30% required open space. Is that correct?
Yes.
30?
So,
So we've got more than that. We're I think close to 60% open space. This is just kind of a blow up of. So this is gives a perspective of the development. This is the Bird's Eye Estates we're talking about. We extend through here. From wetlands standpoint, there's a finger of wetlands around the intermittent water course that comes through here, drains down, everything drains. Most of the property drains to the right side of the basin, down the hill and drains to the river down here. This is the Boyce Halfway River that comes through here. So this whole section of the site from essentially this, right in this area where I have a cursor, I think drains down to the right And then there is a divide where a portion does drain back into this wetland on the upper side, which is farm pond here, and then this is actually, you see it in the wet season, this becomes a kind of a farm pond here, it's like a pond. There's a pocket of wetlands over on this side as well. And then there's a larger pond that sits out front, that's between the development and the Monroe Turnpike, which is out beyond the street here. So we're proposing to come in, extend the road, and create 13 new lots. They would be conventional subdivision lots, like I said, around an acre. Most of them, not all of them, are more than an acre. And in conjunction with that, we're proposing this large open space in the rear, which I have the acreage here. So it's more than 50%. It's about 18 acres of open space that would be donated down along the river here. This connects up with existing open space, really coming all the way down the river. It connects that corridor up to the sister's property here, which, if that were to be developed at some point, that would actually provide a connection of open space all the way out to, essentially out to the lake. That property goes all the way out, except for some power company lines.
Your drawing says 11.5581 acres for open space.
I'll have to verify that for you. I'll double check that, but I'll make sure. Either way, we have to meet a requirement for the zoning, and that's what we're 30% minimum, and we're above that. I'll verify that for you. This again is going to give information on the importance of open space. Considered by the New England. It's very one of the strongest forms of mitigation and then protection of natural resources is to make an open space so it can't be. We feel it's a very strong way to protect this corridor. We have no direct wetlands impact on this proposal. We have an activity, but nothing in the wetlands. This is as close as we get. It is this detention basin, which is right as you come into the road. This is the low point in the road, and basically, due to gravity, we have to size our basin and size it there to get the water, all the water from the road. So we've got a water quality basin here that will require a berm to be built here, and then a level spreader discharge which flows out and follows or continues the natural flow as is now. Water now comes down here, it's caught by that finger that comes along. So we're trying to replicate that. We have submitted this all to review by the town engineer. He's made 2 rounds of comments. We've got like 3 small things or 4 small things left. Him and I talked today, and there's no issues resolving those. We just haven't gotten to resolving all of them yet. But we're comfortable with the design, and he seems to be comfortable as well. We can speak to that if he's still on.
Just for clarity, when you say there's no wetlands impact, you mean that it's not even in the upland review area?
No, I mean, there's not direct wetlands impact.
Gotcha.
We're in the upland review area, yes.
Okay.
We're not in the wetlands.
There's a finger of wetlands right through this property.
But we're not proposing any work within it, is what I'm saying. So no direct wetlands impact with me. We're not doing anything in the wetlands.
Wetlands itself, okay.
For regular activity, yes, this is our largest area of regulated activity. And you'll note that even a lot of the other regulated activity that we are proposing is on the downhill side of the wetlands that are close to it. Like in this case here, we've got a house in this driveway. All of that is downhill for the most part of the wetlands. So this regulated area this water is not going to flow back into the finger here. We're trying to keep everything below and it's going to be regulated. That didn't work in every case, but in this case in particular, we had to kind of know where we had to go. Any questions on that, or if you have any more now, I can answer, or just keep going.
No, continue, I do, but continue.
This is the other area which I felt was should be focused on. This is, as we continue up the road into that curve, there's a pocket, it's actually really a pond now over here, and then there's a small pocket of wetlands over here. We try to kind of split the middle there with the road, and we have the activity beyond the road, you've kept, that's uphill of the wetlands, you've kept outside of that review area. So you've got the road that drains down, and that's captured by the curbing, so that water's gonna come, stay in the roadway, go into the catch basins, go down and be treated in the water quality basin. And then we've got a house down here. Lot 13. That's also, again, on the downhill side of the wetlands, that being that, you know, your runoff is gonna not go towards the wetland that would be closest to it. And same applies here on lot 8. Closer. We are within the regulated area, but we maintain a fairly good separation. This could be at IG 2.2. Somebody wants to find that spot. This is just from the soil scientist report. This was originally flagged by Eric Davison at Davison Environmental back in 2006 for that subdivision that I talked about. He went out and verified and tested a few flags, but overall it stayed the same for the most part. So we resurveyed those. It's been updated as of late 2024. And this is in the application package. We did also look at DEEP's NEDB mapping, and these are the bubbles of concern, I guess we call them. And we are not in any of those, so not in that jurisdiction. This is the landscape plan that was unfortunately just submitted today, so I'm sure none of you have provided a skip of the year. Matt Pop from Environmental and Solutions, and I'll remotely if there's questions on that tonight. Answer them. Otherwise, I'm just running down with it. We've got street planting are proposed along the right of way, as well as planting in spaces. And some various planting. We have some rain guards back here, so standard plantings planned those, I believe. And then he's also got some things around this basin on this side. That's one point I touch on here. There's a second basin, the smaller one. This is just a blow up of the basin, larger basin A that we just discussed. He's got some plantings in there, which you know if you'd like to. This just to kind of go over the stormwater a little bit more, where everything and how it's treated. As I said previously, the roadway all comes down and it brings the basin 1. That's the large treatment basin for the site, and that's where the water goes. All of these lots that are on the downhill side of the road, we have proposed rain gardens in the backyards of those. Those would also be subject to, individual building permits, and they'd have to meet whatever, design criteria would be needed for the impervious area they're creating at the time they pull a building permit. This is just to show that we are meeting we are treating everything that we're showing on this page. So they could go with this or they could go with something else, but that's, the intent was to provide obviously treatment for that. The lots that are sort of in the middle of the subdivision, those are designed to drain into the roadway network. The system is sized to accommodate what we show on the plan. If they go to anything more than that, then they'd have to work with James or whoever down here to make sure that they comply with stormwater requirements. And then there is another smaller basin too on the backside, which picks up the water from these houses, driveways, collects that there, treats it, and then discharges back to the pond and wetland on this side. We do have a full soil and erosion control plan as part of the package, design set, I should say, and the stormwater management report. James, town engineer, has reviewed all of that. I don't think he had any further comments on it from the last go round. So I can go into any details on that people might have questions on. As far as alternatives go, we provided 2 alternatives at the end of the plan set. This one is a conventional 2-acre subdivision. We got the same number of lots with far more impact, more road. We'd have long driveways. We'd have to really push the limits. We'd have a wetlands crossing here to get back to these 2 lots. So I have to cross a wetland down here, and the open space would be significantly less if we were to have to go that route. So I think it's sort of a no-brainer that the cluster conservation would make more sense from an environmental and wetland standpoint than trying to make this fit.
Is that viable in terms of open space and the requirements for it?
It needs that, yeah. I mean, we'd have to get the, obviously the wetlands permitting would be, you'd have to be for you guys to do all that, but we don't want to do that. We'd much rather have it be open space and go that route.
Do you want me to give a quick update of where we are in the subdivision regulations? So the way the subdivisions regulations were written is it required 15% open space in order to conventionally subdivide it. So because this is a 2-acre zone, they create 2-acre lots. Conventional subdivisions allow 50% of the minimum required lot area to be wetland. So if you have a 2-acre property, half of the site, 1 full acre, is permitted to be wetlands. The state does allow the planning and zoning commission's discretion that if they apply for what's called a cluster development, so they have a third of the property is open space, they are allowed to reduce the size of the lots. So the size of the lots, the frontage of the lots, things of that nature, they have basically blanket discretion to reduce it. We've had interest in 2 properties. One is 1536, 1564 Monroe Turnpike, which already came in front of you. And the second one is 1314, 1380 Monroe Turnpike that wanted to do cluster subdivisions. The way that they were proposing to do that, where they were both actually looking to change the zoning regs to recreational residence zones, which allow you to go down to 3/4 of an acre a lot. But it also requires you to have access to public water supply. And it's a much more intensive sewer treatment system with a sewage treatment plant. The Planning and Zoning Commission said no to both of those. They didn't think that it made sense, but they wanted to allow kind of this in-between alternative that allowed cluster development / subdivisions to be able to be permitted, but they wanted to be fully vetted. So they wanted to allow cluster subdivisions to happen where you didn't have access to public water and had to use wells, and you could still do septic on the properties. Staff, though, had very specific recommendations of what that would look like. We didn't want you to be able to reduce the lots in an RF1 zone because we don't think anything less than an acre can actually fit a house, stormwater management, a well, and the septic on the site, meeting all the regulations. So we developed cluster development / subdivision regulations that was just recently adopted last month. It became effective March 7th. And that actually lays out the extent of the reduction that the Planning and Zoning Commission can permit on these lots when they do it. The trade-off is still the same as what the state requires. It's 34%, but 34% of the lot has to be donated as open space or kept for even in private ownership of open space if they wanted to use it for like trails or something of the sort. But so that is kind of what's spurring the legal instrument that allows them to do the reduction in lot size. So the alternative that he was showing is if you were subdividing it conventionally, which is permitted, but they're looking to apply the recently adopted cluster development / subdivision regulations.
2 questions. One, Kathleen, where can we find that, what you just relayed to us?
It's 6.14 in the zoning regulations. That's the bulk of the standards, and that will have the table that shows in RF2 and RF3 districts, we are allowing a reduction in lot size. I don't think frontage really changed. Setbacks, I don't think changed significantly. It more had to do with the reduction of lot size and how we make sure that you can still fit all that kit apart. Stormwater, septic, well, a house and a driveway, on a property, and allow it to the coverage changed a little bit because you want to make sure you're still allowing houses that are large enough to fit in with the design vernacular and the character of the houses in the neighborhood. We don't want to put really tiny houses in RF3 zones, but we also don't want to permit, a tremendous amount of impervious surface. So we kind of had to meet this point in the middle.
My second question is, when you talk about wetlands, you're not including upper review areas at all. Zero review including the upper review area is
100%.
very significant.
Correct.
When I see your proposed alternatives, they're not better, better. I read the statute and I was very disappointed to see that you still maintain these as alternatives because they're not better according to the state statute. They're not feasible and prudent. They do more damage to the wetlands. They do more damage to the wetlands.
The part of disagreeing though is that we're not supposed we're supposed to be presenting to you the most feasible and prudent alternative is what we want to build. So what I'm showing you is the alternatives are going to be more impactful than what is that I'm proposing to build. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense. I would be proposing something that, it would be the opposite of what the intent of that is, I think.
Is the applicant required to give us feasible, prudent alternatives in a situation where there's no wetlands impact proposed?
I mean,
And there's no public hearing?
when there's no
If there's
impact.
if there's no public hearing.
Well,
right,
if there's
and
no,
wetlands
if there's
impact
no
proposed,
disturbance in
then
the,
I don't,
yes, the upland, because when we talk about direct impact, it's really how you interpret it. It's direct disturbance to a wetland is one item, but impact to a wetland could occur in the
Could be,
upland review area. So, yes, even if there is no direct disturbance within an upland review area, they still have to provide prudent and feasible alternatives. I'm going to try to say this politically, which is kind of reiterating what, Mr. Edwards has said. We want them to come in with their best and final. Like, we don't want them to come in with a plan that, we're going to negotiate down. But the way the regulations are written, and you're 100% true, the prudent and feasible alternatives technically should be showing less impacted prudent and feasible alternatives. However, in this case, I think providing, the conventional subdivision is actually really important to the conversation to see what that would look like. And sometimes it's really difficult for applicants to provide less feasible alternatives because we want them to come in with the least amount of impact, best and final offer, for the alternatives. I mean, that's what we want them to do. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. I think you could probably make the assumption that the prudent and feasible alternatives would be less lots. You would actually be getting rid of, instead of 8 lots, it would be less than 8 lots. But from a pro forma perspective, that just might make it a non-viable option for them. So I think it's actually a really hard ask to ask people to do prudent, feasible alternatives, but it is a requirement from the state.
The act requires that the alternatives be feasible and prudent and cause less or no environmental impact to wetlands and watercourses. When you have so much in the upper review area, including a road that goes right through the upper review area, I don't see how 20 houses is better than 13 or even an alternative. I really
I don't
don't.
think better is the right word, but you're correct. There's supposed to be less impact.
Less impact.
Yeah.
It has much more impact.
I think there's another section to what that statute says that you're only reading one paragraph of it.
Well,
I'm not trying to say you're wrong.
You really should go back and read it and point it out to me because I've read the whole thing and I asked for a better alternative than what you're showing. I don't believe this is
I
it.
believe that what I've presented as the application is the most feasible and prudent alternative. That's why we submitted it as why would the client?
I don't know why you waste
all this money though to design something that's
Yeah.
more impactful and then come back and, we're showing you what we could propose as something more impactful. That's what we could have come in with, but it's backwards. I understand that, but there's I'm not sure how else to interpret it the way I am.
Oh, if we go to court, they're going to interpret it the way I'm interpreting it. Unless you can point something out, that is not, your alternatives are not alternatives that are less, that would conform to this act, the state requirements.
So if I interpret what Kathleen was saying before is in order to expedite the process, they're trying to come in with they could have started with the worst one and said, hey, we want to apply for this. And we're going to look at it and go, wow, that's very bad. And well, here's our alternative, which would look better than their original one. So in order to save time of the back and forth, that's what she was saying is we're trying to get to that. Well, give us our best final offer first, rather than we could go through the exercise of him showing us that first 2-lot subdivision that's impacting lots of wetland. And then we're gonna sit there and go, wow, that's really not so good. What's your alternative? And then he's gonna show us this one and go, whoa, that's better than your first one. So, okay, we'll take that one. He's just starting with the one that we know we're probably gonna get to.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm?
I contend that we may not get there because the current plan, and not the alternatives, the current plan had lots 1, 13, 11, 9, and 8 have over 50% in the review, in the upper review area. And I'm stating that just from looking at it because these drawings are not acceptable. They're too small. I can't, you can hardly read acreage on them. But I'm looking at it that way, and I didn't do the calculations on it, but I got 5 lots out of the 13 that have half in the upper review area.
I do agree about looking at the map.
Yeah.
I'm using my phone as a magnifying glass. That part I agree. Higher.
Right.
I mean, regulated activity is not prohibited. It's regulated. It means that you get to regulate it and review it. It doesn't mean that the owner of the property can't use it. It's not the same thing. I mean, wetlands is something different. I mean, as far as building in the wetlands is different than building in the regulated area. We have to build to environmental guidelines and your purview to look at things, but we still have the right to use the property. So.
Yeah, and we want to give you a fair shake. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like, you know, as a commission, we need to make sure that we reserve your rights as an applicant and a landowner, but we also need to protect the watershed and the rights of Monroe. And I can't really, again, it's a bad map, but I can't really tell if this is in the public drinking water source protection areas or not, but it's real close. And with that halfway, you know, where you say all the water goes, you have a lot of people, they're going to want to, unfortunately, put chemicals on their lawn and use chemicals in their house. And that's, you know.
We designed stormwater systems to treat the runoff. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the DEP regulation, is to make the developments so that people can live there and not pollute at the same time. You can't stop someone from going and dumping oil in the backyard, but that's not, you know, we can't control that. That's, you know, we can do what we can design to the guidelines that are provided to us, and that's what we all have to work with.
And I look forward to a robust, you know, discussion on your sewage treatment.
I agree with what staff said, and I understand what's going on. Of course, there's always ways to improve a plan. And I don't always agree with what they would, for instance, okay, you could propose to put swales along the sides of the road, like they do in New Hampshire, which is more environmentally friendly to do it. I'm sure it doesn't meet the town standards, and that's a reason why it's not prudent. Now, are you wasting your time doing that? I guess maybe you are, but you may be meeting the town's or the wetlands guidelines by doing that. You may propose to put more galleys in besides, you know, rain gardens. Maybe that's more acceptable. I don't know. To me, it's not, because it's more maintenance, it's more expensive. Those are all things that you could potentially say are alternatives that the commission may say, oh, that does potentially provide less impact to the wetlands. But it's significantly more expensive. It's harder to maintain and so anyway, there you go.
No, thank you. Where I left off, just to presentation here. This was the RR development that we had brought before planning and zoning. This was a concept plan. Again, this was denied, but we did go down the path of trying to change the zone to go with this route. It's more homes, a little bit more road, but more open space. And you were correct on the open space, by the way. I spoke, it's closer to 11 acres than it is the one I said, so I apologize. I must have a number from the previous paragraph. But this was just our second alternative. I wanted to make sure I said that was there.
That was denied by zoning though?
It was. We went before them.
They say why? Well, do you know what the reason was if it died?
So the RR zone district allows a higher density than an RF2 district, so it was just significantly more homes. The cluster development does not permit a higher density, so you don't get a density bonus for providing more open space. it has to be the same amount of lots that could conventionally be subdivided. It just allows them to cluster it in a way that for them probably reduces their costs because there's less amount of road, reduces stormwater management practices, and then has an environmental benefit to the town.
Is it more reasonable to say that that is not a feasible alternative because it was already denied by zoning?
Yes, I would say that's not a feasible alternative.
Just one more piece here, and I did provide this link to staff. Just to be, regarding the acceptance of this, you all have mentioned getting a drone flight possibly, so when we have one, we would have get a drone flight. This is all on a cloud server, so people can go on and look at this if they want to. And there's a 3D version too, you can walk around out there and see what the ground looks like. If you're interested, I could pan around and zoom around on here, but it's going to take a little while on here. But you're all welcome to go on there and have a look.
I do appreciate that, and if you could, Andrew, let us know where that's to be found. The drone,
I sent you guys a link to.
I still contend that we need a sidewalk.
Yeah, that's fine too. I just figured I'd make this option available.
I would just like to say, I mean, I think there is an obligation to provide two feasible and prudent alternatives, right? So if the second one is not feasible and prudent just because it was denied by planning and zoning, if nothing else, I would like to see a secondary option and or a third option, I guess, more specifically. And I think maybe that's something we should be talking about things that, to Commissioner Smith's point, if it needs to be less impactful to the wetlands, I just want to make sure that whatever that additional proposal is, or whatever that additional option is, that we're being thought, we're not just putting something, you're not putting something else in front of us that isn't going to fit the bill. We're based on this conversation, what are things that we can provide back to the applicant to help them come up with a alternative plan?
Not to interrupt you, but I thought my understanding still of that requirement is that we are to provide you with what we think is the most feasible and prudent. So what we show the alternatives and we show how that's not feasible. It may be a more prudent alternative, but it's not feasible, so we can't go that route. And that's the way that I approached it, alternative, how I always have. So maybe I'm wrong in doing that, but that's what my understanding was. So that's why that was included in there.
Take a little bit of a different take on it, right? Like, I don't disagree with you. Like, I think it shows the work that you put behind it. I think that's okay. And your presentation was great, by the way. The diagrams are definitely difficult to read, right? I think we all agree with that. But I think the way to present that is, listen, I'm just showing the breadth of the work that we did, okay? And I'm clearly telling you now that this was already not approved by planning and zoning. So let's just take it off the table right now as a feasible option. I'm not going to use the word alternative because that seems to be confusing on everybody, right? But it's good to see the work that you did. And I do understand, what you said, right? In terms of we're going to talk more about the best and final, right? The least impactful. So you kind of took the opposite way around. I think, most of us get that. But again, I just want to say, I think it's good to see the breadth of the work that you put behind it. Now, if there's another option that maybe we can see, I think that's what some of the commissioners are saying. That's a valid point, So I'll leave it there. And then in terms of 6.14, again, there's a lot to unpack there, right? So I'll go back and review that. So I think I'm going to reserve my questions or comments on that until I've had a chance to really review that a little bit more in depth because of the amount.
I'm also fine if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Yeah. So let me just ask one thing, right? In terms of the lot reduction, was there something that was ruled out so far, like less than an acre, for example?
It's
Is that what I heard?
50%. So RF3 zones can be reduced down to 1.5 acres. So it can go from 3 acres to 1.5. And RF2 zones can go from 2 acres to 1 acre, but you can't go below that.
That was the main question I had. So thanks for that clarification. That's all I have.
I want to make sure I follow the math on that. So then you reduce that 50%, but you're basically carving off that 1 acre in this 2 acre zone, but that then gets moved to the open space. So you're increasing the open space. You're just combining all that open space into one.
Which in this case gives more protection, filtration to the Boys Halfway River, which is a native
Right.
water course in the town. So that's actually it's actually a really important resource. And that was honestly, like, there was discussion by the Planning and Zoning Commission about, our plan of conservation and development, which they're, beholden to, does put the protection of these ecological resources, to that. So having the RR district also gave that large amount of open space, and what was more important, the development of it, and making sure it was the least amount of lots possible, because they could still come in with a conventional, 2-acre subdivision. We didn't know if they were going to apply a cluster subdivision or develop it as a conventional one, or the open space. And they just have a really big problem with the number of lots that it would create. But they did see the value of creating this large swath of open space. So actually, this is kind of the best of both worlds. They haven't seen this yet, but in their opinion, it's going to be not an increase in the number of lots, but they're going to get, this large open
Big
space
open
area to
space, right.
protect this resource. And this, and just for clarification, this is not in the public water supply watershed, this project.
No. Yeah, I was concerned with the halfway river because that's where the water converges on the eastern side, right? It's down right there.
We want to open up the floor to James and get his take on this.
Yeah, I do. Just something else that keeps crossing my mind. So these are reduced lot sizes. And so many of these lots have a significant amount of wooded area on them. And I don't know if that's a problem or not, but I just want, like, when we're already what will that appearance be? What will the functionality of the lot be with a property on? I don't know. I'm just saying out loud something that I keep thinking as I look at the map. Like, we're already working off of a smaller property size. And again, 1, 2, there's a lot of lots with half the space, maybe more in some instances, with wooded cover. I guess maybe that doesn't matter. I just don't, I wanted to say it out loud, because I have been thinking about it.
I'm not 100% sure what your concern is. Can you say it a different way?
I don't know if I can. It's just something I'm observing as I'm looking at the map. Just the wooded, like how I think about my property and neighbor's property. There is a difference in my yard versus the woods that are part of my lot on my property, right? I don't know a lot about it's not a wetlands matter, but like the size of the homes being built on these lots, the amount of actual grass land on the property. I just don't know, like,
Okay, so let
how
me,
much will people be inclined to push into the woods, for
Understood.
example,
all right, so let's talk a little bit of big picture, and Commissioner Stewart had mentioned this briefly a couple minutes ago, and I think maybe this is the right way to talk about it, of what this commission is actually reviewing as part of this application, what your options are for additional review once the lots get developed, and what our zoning enforcement officer has to permit in relationship to a certificate of zoning compliance. The Wetland Commission is looking at two things: the regulated activity within the wetlands and upland review area as it relates to the items that are detailed. So that includes the road, the stormwater management practices, and infrastructure. You're not approving the configurations of each individual lot when we're thinking about what you're approving as part of the IWC, because they're only required to give you a conceptual layout of what each individual lot looks like, because they're just trying to prove out to the Planning and Zoning Commission that it can be a developed lot. We imagine that once lots are bought, individual homeowners are going to have specific footprints that maybe they necessarily want to see on the property. And these are all going to change in some variation. Hopefully, I would say not significantly, because there's only so many places you can put the house on here, but there is some change for alteration. With that said, you also have to provide a subdivision referral to the Planning and Zoning Commission as the Inland Wetland Commission. And as part of that, I would say you are approving each of these individual lots in concept. So you can see that lot 113, several of these lots have a portion of the house, if not a large portion of the house, within the upland review area. And you as a commission can't really say, yes, we give a positive subdivision referral, and then if one of these lots were to be pushed back in front of you as part of the Inland Wetland Commission, say, well, no, none of the house can be in the upland review area. When in concept, you did approve the concept of each one of these lots. So I do want to make sure that you understand that there is some legality to you providing potentially a positive subdivision referral as it relates to the location of the house and the driveway as it relates to the upland review area. The inland wetland regulations is very gray in what it authorizes the wetland enforcement officer to approve administratively through an agent approval. It's basically anything that that has minimal impact to the wetlands. And we have all discussed and agreed on generally to what that is. And if he ever has a question of where that threshold is, he brings it to the commission so you guys can make the decision of whether you want it to be an inland wetland application or an agent approval. As part of this discussion, I think we would all be comfortable saying that any single one of these lots that either has upland review area or has upland review area with a house in it, however you want to make that threshold, has to come back in front of you. So that would give you the opportunity at that time to those individual lots would have to be an IWC application, which I think we would both be very comfortable with and, you know, understand the idea of that. So when those individual lots come in, you would have a secondary review of what that would look like. To get to Commissioner Kelly's question, as the way the planning and zoning regulations are written now, any disturbance, alteration, basically anything you do to your lot has to require a certificate of zoning compliance, including cutting a tree. That's the way that the regulation is written. Not many people follow that. I will say that. Oftentimes people will cut trees, especially when it has to do with safety issues, without coming to see the planning and zoning department. But that is the way the regulations are written. I will tell you that we are going through the thought process of really defining what that means. We don't think that if somebody has one tree that's a safety hazard, they should come get a permit from the Planning and Zoning Commission. From the Planning and Zoning Department. We do want to make sure that people can, you know, safely take trees down on the property if it's an emergency situation, especially if it's one or two trees. So we are looking into updating those regulations to really clearly define. But we're talking about like caliper of trees, you know, anything under 12 inches, you know, and it's under 8 trees, you know, they can do, you know, on their own. But anything substantial like a forest, they would have to come in and get a permit. So the idea would be, one, if these come back in front of this commission for review, you're going to see the extent of that tree clearing to develop it, to make sure that they're still providing some sort of, you know, filtration, you know, into that area. And two, if once that's approved, they do ever want to cut down a large swath of trees, they would have to come to the Planning and Zoning Department to get a certificate of zoning compliance. Do we have violations where people will do something and ask for forgiveness later? Yes, they would, but they would have to do a remediation plan to show that.
In terms of the legality of all of this and us giving a positive, what is it, a positive
Subdivision referral.
referral? If we do that and we find that, for example, on lot 1, like I just don't know because these are not applications for homes, right? And I get it. That's not what we're talking about right now. But an application comes forth for lot 1 and more space is needed in the grassy area to be able to install a septic system than what is laid out. Like, is that something that, like, for us to say, well, we're not going to agree to that because of the upland review area and because of the wooded areas protecting, like, is there a legal issue because we gave that positive referral with lot 1 as part of it? Like, do we need more detail to be able to be comfortable with that?
Well, if we look at what lot 1, I would say 3/4 of the house is in the upland review area. Or no, a quarter of the house is in the upland review area. All of the septic is outside of the upland review area. all of the stormwater is outside the upland review area.
Do we have that level of detail? I'm sorry. Maybe.
Yes, they do. So if for some reason they come in and they put the entire septic system in the upland review area, I think you can say, no, you guys did test pits.
Yeah.
Did test pits.
Yes.
They have to do test pits as part of the planning and zoning requirement for subdivision.
And say no to moving it to
To
another.
prove out, and unless it was an extreme kind of circumstance, why doesn't it work in those areas? I mean, the idea is that they did these test pits to confirm that they can put the septics in these areas, of which case you can see they did test pits within the upland review area. And is that what these, I'm seeing on here, there's dots up like they actually.
Trees, the dots are, there's some, yes, they are, test pits for that too, yes.
Yeah, so, if you look at their test pits, they are having some in the upland review area and then some outside of it. And based on those, they were able to put the entire septic system outside of the upland review area. So I think in concept, that's when you're looking at lot one, you're saying, in detail, the stormwater management can be as shown because that is part of the regulated activity that you are approving as part of this.
Got
But
it.
you're also saying a quarter of the house, some of the grading can be in the upland review area, but the stormwater and the septic are all being shown outside of it. And yeah, if they come to you and they say the entire septic has to be in the upland review area, you're like, well, we didn't approve that in concept.
To add on there, as far as the removal of trees, James did ask under landscaping to pick any significant trees to be removed from 100% upper review area. You noted that it was provided by others. I don't know that I see that here.
That, I think that's either on the landscape plan or we put it on ours, but you don't have it yet.
Yeah, I don't see it here yet,
Yeah, it's not
so
there.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
But it's very important as far as trees removed from the upper review, because the upper review can't do its job if the trees are removed.
Can I just ask I don't know if there's actually a definition of significant tree in the regulation. We generally go with like a 24-inch diameter. Is there something that you all want to see that's smaller than that, or is that acceptable?
I think planning and zoning defines it as 30 inches.
We, regulations don't define it by a specific, but 24 inches would, anything above 24 inches definitely considered.
But I mean, a 50-year tree is going to be 18 inches maybe, so 50-year tree is a significant tree.
I just don't want to miss something and then have you guys think, I don't want to miss one.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point.
But I will tell you, planning and zoning, I think we only require them to show, I can't remember.
30
I think
inch.
it's 30 inches.
It can
30 inches.
work if we have to locate all forest trees to put them on plants.
That's a big tree capable of a lot of gallons of water.
I'm just telling you what the reg said.
Well, it's not, in my opinion, that's not sufficient.
I understand it's not sufficient in your opinion. I will also say, like, you asking this of him, it's not written in our if it's not
It's
written
not.
in our regulations of what that significant tree is, I do want you to keep that in consideration.
Kathleen, before we get a little further, under requirements for an application, site plan showing, and then number 9, existing land features such as rock walls, limit of wooded areas, large trees, rock outcroppings, wooded areas, specimen trees, large trees, 30-inch caliber or greater, within 10 feet of proposed limits of disturbance. So,
But that's in the zoning regs. That's not in the wetlands.
no, wetland.
Oh, that's in wetlands too?
Yep, I'm in the wetland regs right now.
Say match. So 30 inches.
Well, if that's what it is, that's what it is. But that's part of the purpose of the site walk, is so we can take a look at it, see what's up there. But,
Within the limit of disturbance.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get everything that we can.
right, because you want the commission to be more comfortable. And if I'm not, if I'm asking for something more, it's to be so that I'm comfortable with it. So if the applicant wants to make me comfortable, they're going to provide what they can. And I appreciate that you're going to do that. I'm not stating that you're not, just,
It's not a problem. We can do the best we can.
I'm a lot of trees as a kid. I'm very pro-tree. Especially in the wetlands.
On the previous subject, I've been looking at the state statutes. It appears that the feasible improvement alternative requirement is linked to regulated activity. From what I can see, regulated activities is filling or cutting in the wetlands or water course. So,
Regulated activity includes the upland review area. That's why anything in regulated activity has to come in front of this planning and zoning commission, because you regulate the activity within the wetlands and the upland review area.
But there was some language about it being impactful to the wetlands though, too. Not just that it was in the regulated area, but it actually had impacts, determined impact by a professional to the wetlands. I could be wrong about that. But that's what
I'll also reference the regs in one more time. So again, our inland wetland regs, under application requirements, section 7.5, all regs or all applicants shall include the following information in writing or on maps or drawings. And I'm going to go down to F. A minimum of 2 other feasible alternative site plans that were considered relative to impacts on wetlands and watercourses, and an explanation as to why the proposed plan was considered the most feasible and prudent alternative, resulting in the least amount of impact to said wetland or watercourse.
And then I'll add that to it, which is we define feasible, which is able to be constructed or implemented consistent with sound engineering principles. And we define prudent, which is economically and otherwise reasonable in light of social benefits to be derived from the proposed regulated activity, provided cost may be considered in deciding what is prudent, and further provided a mere showing of expense will not necessarily mean an alternative is imprudent, but economical impact can be done. And then I'm looking at regulated activity. Any operation within or use of a wetland or watercourse involving the removal of materials, but shall not include activities, regulated activities includes, but not to. The commission may determine that any other activity located within such upland review area or in any other area is likely to impact or affect wetlands or watercourses.
Yeah.
So yes, so 100% regulated activities within the wetlands. However, the commission can determine if work in the upland review area is considered regulated activity.
Well, they can, is that what that said?
The commission may determine that any other activity located within such upland review area or in any other area is likely to impact or affect wetlands or watercourses.
Yes.
And is a regulated activity.
Okay, because the state statute doesn't define regulated activities as that.
That's how, this is our inland wetland regulations.
Understood.
It says the act expands an inland wetlands agency's approval to regulate activities in wetland buffer areas to include watercourse buffer areas. So,
Right, but the subjective part is what, what was just read, right? So it sounds like there's a gray area where the commission decides in the upland review area what's acceptable, right?
Correct, which is why any disturbance within the upland review area goes to this commission for your determination of whether it has impact or not. And it may have impact, and then mitigation measures may, be proposed in order to mitigate any of those potential impacts, which is the process of what you guys do.
Well, I still don't think we've clarified the prudent alternative.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I think it
we
is
gotta be
subjective.
subjective.
I think it
yeah.
is
I
subjective.
just think it's tough to come up with prudent, feasible alternatives to impacts that aren't there. You know what I mean? You're not in the wetlands. If you were in the
Right.
wetlands, then you could say, hey, we could move the road. Certainly there are ways to improve any plan, but I don't
And
know
just-
if that's what the state statutes.
And just asking to them to reduce the number of lots, if they're claiming it's not economically prudent,
Right.
then it's not a prudent and feasible alternative, to
Right, they're
their
different.
applicant, yeah.
a road that separates 2 pieces of wetlands, there's going to have an effect. That road is going to have an effect.
This isn't bisecting wetlands. This road isn't.
It's going between 2 different documents.
Right, there are 2 different, the pond, the farm pond and, the upland meadow and the watercourse and woods on lots 13 and 8. That road goes right through upper review area as well.
Yes, but it's not, the wetlands are already separating. It's not bisecting the wetlands. It's just going in between 2 wetlands.
Area anyway to feed those wetlands. They're not connected.
We're not,
No.
we're
Not yet.
not ready yet. We will.
Stand by. Oh, close. I think we're getting closer.
Our environmental expert is on too, if anybody wants to ask any questions.
I actually want to ask James if there's anything that you've seen or heard so far that raises any red flags for you yet.
Nothing that raises any major red flags for me. As Mr. Edwards has already stated, him and I did speak after I issued my latest comment letter. Again, none of them are going to, in my opinion, substantially change what you are seeing now. Just to give you an idea, the only one that may have an impact on the drawings and the plan set that you're seeing is one that has to do with the water quality basin at the entrance of the property or the start of the road there. Depending upon how they address it, it has the potential to maybe move disturbance a little bit closer to the wetlands. But again, it comes down to how their office addresses that comment. But it's not something that is impossible to do. It's something that's feasible. I just want to echo what Kathleen said earlier, and just in terms of what you're really reviewing. You're reviewing the road, you're reviewing the infrastructure for that, you're reviewing these lot lines. So for instance, I know my recommendation is that anything that has any of these lots that have an upland review area on it would come back in front of this commission for site plan approval prior to the construction. However, what I do think is very important for you to do now is look at those lots. So for instance, lot one, I'm just going to point it out. The driveway comes very close to that wetland. If that is something that this commission is not okay with, yeah, lot one's just north of that basin. Yep. So the driveway comes close to that wetland. If that's something that you think is too close, then it's going to throw away this current configuration of the lots. You know what I mean? And that's something that you as a commission need to determine. Same thing with like lot 13. I'm just going to use these two as my two examples. The rest you guys can do. Lot 13, that almost 90% of that lot is in either wetlands or upland review area. Therefore, if you are not happy with the current configuration that they are showing, you can recommend or have them modify the configuration so that you're more comfortable with it. Because if they cannot prove and demonstrate to you that something can go here that you are ultimately happy with, then you should not be approving that lot configuration. So I just want to just point those couple things out to you.
All right, hearing what you said, I'm not comfortable looking at such small detail. Like there's no way we can see what's here. I think we need plans like at least twice or not three times as big, because approving this, we need to see. I mean, we're all sitting here struggling. We can't even read out.
And I'll be honest, lot 1 and lot 13 are the two that have been the most concerning to me as I've been
Right.
looking, but again, it's hard.
We can't see
It's
the rest
hard
of
to
them,
connect the
so-
dots from,
Yeah, no, I
so
agree.
even like a sub shot of those
Yeah,
two
I'd like
lots.
I'd like them all bigger so we
Yeah,
can
it's-
see everything
I
collectively.
totally agree with it. It's difficult to extrapolate how many
Yeah.
feet away, right? Because
Exactly.
like when we look at upland review area water courses, that's factual, like we designate that by so many feet. On a, and, I don't want to beat this,
Yeah, no,
right, but on a small map, it's hard to determine like how many feet is that red line away from, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it's there, I just don't see it, but.
So
There's a margins on that, I don't think that cheap.
even there, that's,
Still probably small on that scale, I mean, that's size. I'm happy to give you full-size prints, this is the size that they tell us to give you guys.
yeah,
I can get you a big one.
even if we had one big set we could pass around, so, there's just so much going on here.
We're happy to come back and.
Yeah.
Particularly, if you don't like the driveway, we can look at pre-configured as well.
We have a full set here.
The detention pond, who's gonna be ultimately responsible for maintaining that?
It's a question of, again, they now, they now pump that to the homeowner or homeowner association, I believe. I don't think he does that.
So does your plan, is it gonna include a maintenance,
Maintenance.
manual or maintenance plan?
Something on the record, land records that goes with it, yeah. We can provide some outlines of that so we can work.
Is it on lot one? Is
Yes.
it part of lot one?
Yeah.
Will have an easement over it or something to?
I think it's an easement, so they can, they have to.
They have to.
Their water coming through, so I think they have to have it. Because it's a
Yeah,
public road.
Yeah, so the plan already depicts, the rough area of the drainage easement. A lot of that will get handled through planning and zoning. But yeah, and that's part of it is the maintenance will be documented and in terms of like what the requirements are, things like that.
Saying.
There's a couple lots, we're downhill of the wetland. In close proximity to there, so we're not draining into those grounds.
And do we have a planting plan for that pond?
Yeah, it was given out today.
That's the other level.
Is that the next page, lot 13? Or no, I didn't realize we actually had the plan, so we're gonna, in a couple minutes, just look at through here. This is you, right? Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's not pulled out.
What size your driveways are?
There's 13.
12, 14 driveways, how wide?
They're showing 8%, 10 or 12 right now.
Yeah, it looks like 10 or 12.
Well, I think there's
But I can't,
minimum requirement, I think.
there is.
Yeah, there's a lot of 8 has a lot in it.
Showing like what the septic.
Is James, is this gonna be a dam?
Technically, yes.
It's showing some, like, this is,
Well,
yeah, septic here.
Birds are a dam if you go technically.
There.
Yeah, I'm just asking the question. You're proposing trees on the
Technically,
berm, which you shouldn't be
Yeah.
installing.
so technically what this will do is like I would have had this as a comment through planning and zoning as a condition of approval that they submit the plans to deep for a dam determination.
Yeah, 11, 75% of that. That's inside. Yeah.
That's inside.
Yeah. All right, can you pull up lot 11? Lot 11 shows, looks like septic is inside the area, like.
Going all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That septic looks like it's,
Yeah, we're within the area there. I mean, we could potentially move the septic forward if we, but the septic you're talking about is right here.
yeah, that's inside by a lot.
I mean, again, there's health department regulations on separations for workforces and wetlands for septic systems. So this is a wetland review area. It doesn't mean that you can't have a septic system near a wetland. Water is in the ground, it's treated, and then passes to the wetland. It's not going on the surface. It's close to a well, I'm more concerned than I would the wetlands. Yeah, for wells. We have public water here. I didn't see any documentation. I don't know that we have any yet, but there's public water in the street on both sides of the property. We probably have to get on that side.
Is lot 11?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the lay of the land. Is it downhill from the wetland? I mean,
This one does drain back to the wetland.
it drains back.
We can look at pulling that house forward and trying to get everything out of the review area as best we can. I can't guarantee that we can, but we'll do what we can to pull it forward. Let's see. You know, it looks like there should be room to come forward. But again, I think, something to keep in mind is that when someone buys this lot, they can come back in here and ask for approval to move it back again, and they're within their right to do so. So, we can move this out of here now, but it doesn't mean that there's not going to be something built there. You're not permitting that now anyway.
No, yeah, I just, again, going back to our previous conversation, if we're going to give a positive referral for this layout,
Yeah.
then that's if then we instantly have that problem.
Right.
That's
Right, I would rather see that moved. And if an applicant for that particular piece of property wants to ask us to try and move it,
Yeah.
then we could at least, have that discussion then, but. Were there any other lots that we were?
Can we go back to lot 1 in that driveway? Can you just point to where the edge of the wetland is?
This is WL.
Yeah, but that point, that most everyone, yeah, there, and then can you point to where the edge of the driveway is?
It's up above this LOD.
Yes.
Up there. You've got roughly 10 to 15 feet there, probably, maybe more. I can get an exact distance there. I mean, the thing is to get back to that lot, we can look at maybe shifting all this over a little bit, or doing some sort of a common driveway.
Just have a shared driveway between 1 and 3.
Yeah, it's just that's a long shared driveway, you got to drive right past their house. We'll look at options. The other option would be to move the house up to the front possibly, but then we're gonna have regular activity up there, so. We'll look at what we can do and come up with some options if we can.
But you're not proposing any grading on that driveway?
No, coming down pretty close to the grader. Yeah. And there's some grading down as you get closer to the house. And up right at the road, right through that section, right at grader.
And I know I'm reiterating what we already talked about, but if you won't permit that driveway to get built when someone comes in to develop that lot, that's a non-buildable lot. And, that's why planning and zoning asks for your recommendation and approval or referral, positive referral, is because they don't want to approve a lot that ends up being a non-buildable lot. And that's what we're doing. We're proving out that these lots can be built.
The other thing we could do is add some sort of protection around the wetland, put some fencing up, put some sort of buffer there that prohibits people from getting into it. Or getting into conservation, something like that. Something like that.
I think I would like to do a site walk as well, just to kind of see with my eyes the grade of where the proposed driveway is, and where the water course begins. It seems like that's a wooded, it will remain a wooded area around that water course, but just to get a visual of that would look like.
Where'd you say there was a shared driveway?
I didn't, I was saying maybe we could do a shared driveway here.
Oh, I don't think you can, we have to look at the interior lot regulations. Off the top of my head, I don't believe you can have shared driveways.
I thought you could, no, you can't.
We'll look and discuss, but let's look before we promise that.
Blackburn Road, the commission made me do one before you were here.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, let's look at it. I just want to make sure zoning will approve it. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but we're looking at it.
I also am aware that there's some grading, there's sharp grading on some of this. James is aware of that. Could you, I'd ask James to let us know, is it the initial part of Bird's Eye Road going from 1 to 5? Houses 1, 2, and 5, or where's the sharp grading and what is the grade? No, it's James. I didn't he notice it? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to follow what you're asking, like in terms of the how steep the road is going to get.
Right.
Yeah, so I looked at it briefly because that's part of the subdivision regs. I do believe that it meets our road steepness, but that does get flushed out in the subdivision. But I will double check it too.
Yeah, you mentioned these lot altitude plans. I couldn't quite figure them out either. You had asked for better clarification on it.
Oh, some of the watershed maps.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was it's yeah. Mr. Edwards and I already spoke about that, about how to try to make it clear for the reviewer.
Yeah, I couldn't follow. 4.1, notes and details, that's the Birdseye Road exit. I'm not really sure what that is on 4.1.
That's the stub road that comes, the second cul-de-sac up there is what that is, but we'll identify that as well as plans.
Also, and I can't, plants are so small, I'm not quite sure, but it looks like the top of your outlet control structure is higher than your,
There's a typo on the detail, is that what you're looking at?
well, it's higher than your emergency spillway.
Talking about on sheet 4.1 on the.
Talking about sheet 4.1 and it actually appears to be higher. But I think you should have, I don't know what
We
it
have a
is.
detail there, but I'll check it and make sure.
The
The way it's drawn, I see what you're, yeah.
it
I can't see the dimensions, but it looks like it's a foot above.
I think that is a typo on the top of the outlet structure number. That, I saw that earlier today. I'll double check.
Oh, I have a question. So between lot 7 and 8, it looks like you have another road extension, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Not really a circle. It just looks like looks like you maybe have that for a future road that could,
with a temporary turnaround, and we had actually originally proposed that without that turnaround.
Right.
James had requested it, so we added it back in, but we did plan to actually ask the planning and zoning if they could waive that requirement, because it's only servicing 2 houses. It seems like a lot of pavement for that.
well, that's what I was gonna say. Why not put a little road in between lots 2 and 5 to give you access to those 4 houses in the back there? You can eliminate that driveway for lot 1 along the wetland.
I think it might be an issue of grade there, but we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, you got, it says here 10% max grade going up to house 3.
What was the grade?
10% maximum grade.
Yeah, the driveways are, have to be relatively steep coming down the hill.
Yeah.
Roads down there would be, might not be feasible.
Yeah.
Also, you can share a driveway. The wording's a little weird. I don't know. Well, we'll still have to see how Backburn did it, but yeah,
Yeah.
that is an option.
All right, so where are we with this? What do we want to do? Why would we not gonna?
Take public comment and I'll start up again next meeting.
I think so. You guys have any other questions or comments yet?
I think we need to digest more what we got here.
Oh, I'm with you, but I still think we gotta invite the public in.
Yeah, I
So
think we
unless you guys have anything else. Okay,
Thank you all very much.
thank you. All right, at this time, we'd like to ask anyone in the chambers who wants to come up and speak. Come on up, state your name and address for the record. We have a sign-in sheet too, right?
Got a sign-in sheet right up on the podium there.
Sorry.
Jason stole it.
Stole it, sorry. Just let it at home. That's okay. We stole that one too.
Copy.
So while we're waiting, I do appreciate that we have a lot of the calculations with us, but at next meeting, can you address the drainage calculations? Walk us through it a little bit.
I mean, James reviewed those already.
No, but tonight we got these. I haven't read them. We haven't seen them.
They were submitted, the initial application. We had a revision, but they were submitted back when we submitted the plans. So they're not anything.
Were they?
What were the drainage calculations?
It's with James, maybe they didn't get to you guys, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, I need a little time, so.
Yeah.
My name is Paul Skromsky. I'm at 75 Trailside Drive. First of all, Ryan, if you're going to want that property to roots, it's really wet over there, so just, you know. The change, the thing I see on here, and I just want you to confirm, there is no outlet over onto Monroe Turnpike.
I'm so
right?
sorry. Please address that.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's no outlet over to Monroe Turnpike. I think I'm asking that. It appears on the map that there's not. Okay, the other thing I wanted just to point out is the area where the building is going to happen, We get a lot of water coming in from that area right now. I won't even talk about the storm last August, which I had water in my basement. I had to go to FEMA to help get cleanup. So my concern is with so many wetlands there, water has to go somewhere. It looks like it's all going downhill. As long as it's not taking a right and going into the existing neighborhood, I would be okay with that. So other than that, I don't have much to say. Anything that adds tax dollars, I'm in favor of. I have nothing else to say.
You live on the south side, sir? You live on the south side of this lot?
I live on Trailside Drive. I'm on the newer section of Trailside. I'm 75. I'm just below Birdseye, 2 houses below Birdseye. On Trailside.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Could have a public hearing, so invite it back.
Yeah, oh, this is a public hearing.
Another one, go.
Oh, yeah, we're just. Sorry.
Everyone, my name is Viru. I'm a resident of 38 Birdseye Road, where the cul-de-sac the property management starts. I'm exactly at that. I'm exactly at the start point of the this new property where it's starting. I'm at the cul-de-sac point. So my first question is like, how far it's going to be the water basin? I'm right nearly the edge of the cul-de-sac. How far the water basin is going to be from my property, and who is going to take care of that maintenance? And make it show a town or the developer is going to take care. And I'm really worried about the pests and rodents, coming because I'm very nearby to that property. So that's my concern. That's the only question. And, I see like a lot of wetlands there, but, I'm not sure, but I'm not an engineer. But I want to bring it to the commission attention. I mean, with your permission, if you give me, like, I can show you video, because recently in August we had a storm, so the flooding. So I just took one video. I'm not sure whether I can show this to you.
You can submit any information over when you have a chance, Andrew, and we can submit that and we put it as an exhibit.
We realize it's a 100-year flood, but it is interesting information.
The flooding,
1,000 years.
all the water gushed
Yeah.
to the cul-de-sac area. It's like a huge gush of water. So all the way it came in front of my house, and it drained to the road. It went to the drain area. So we believe like most of the times the water comes to the road. It's part of wetlands. So I just want to bring it to the commission. So I mean, request is like whether they can move the water basin away from all the properties, and they can put it towards the battery, near the gas line, towards away from the gas lines. Because there is a, back of my property, there is a gas line which is running. So can they move the water basin all the way? They can, is there a possibility, can they make any changes to that water basin? If possible, if there is no possibility, fine, but just, but how far it is from my property, and I'm really worried about the pest and rodents. There are a lot of kids around like 10 years old, they're playing, especially in the summer, they go around, they play on the roads. Is there any buffer zone they can do? The fence, like for the kids to go to the pond, or if that the water gets, so can they do something?
I think the current standards require fencing around these ponds. Not that I'm for it, but that's what I understand, that the current standards require fencing. If you're where I think you are, the pond is pretty much right up against the property line.
If I was a kid, I'd want to go swimming in there. Maybe. That was trouble, sorry.
All right, well, we can ask the applicant to see if maybe there's an opportunity to shift that a little bit, or at the very least, put some fencing around it. Anything else? Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Bless you.
Is there anybody else in chambers who'd like to come up?
Good evening, Dan Desmond, 16 Bagburn Road.
No, that's better.
We can tell. Better have.
Yeah. Well,
But we've been kind of following this development with some interest since it started, and kind of disappointed to hear that based upon regulations, that the property can be developed into, I'll call it cluster. So you can use 50% or whatever percentages you were quoting. Zoning and planning denied the change from RF2, I believe, to R&R, because our concern was it doesn't fit with the neighborhood. If you go and look around the neighborhood, most of the acreage around there per house is 2 acres plus. Okay. A new development went in.
Yes, with the 25, I want to say regions.
Whatever
With
it
the
is
25.
next to the senior
Right.
area, which totally doesn't fit in the neighborhood. And now I'm concerned that from a wetlands perspective, they can do a workaround to still get cluster housing with 1 acre. And, if you look at the size of the house, I know this is not zoning, so I don't know what size house is going to go on there. Are you going to increase property values for us, decrease by allowing smaller houses? Originally it started out to be, I'm just quoting here, 20 some odd houses. Now we're down to 13. So I just see this kind of as a way to get around the regulations with wetlands, so allowing for this. So I'm opposed to it, as you can obviously tell. Obviously, you want to allow the builder to do what he wants to do with the property within the regulations, to develop the right to develop the property. But I guess I don't understand why we bypass putting together a plan based on the 2 acre zoning and to see if that's feasible or not feasible. If it's not feasible, well, say la vie, right? You don't build on that piece of property, you go over to the next lot.
Economic prudence is not our concern, or shouldn't be your concern, whether this is economically prudent or not.
For the
It's not-
developer,
Yes, it's not our concern. Our concern is
the town, our
the
neighborhood.
town, our wetlands,
And our
and
neighborhood.
things not being disturbed. So
So I'm
we
not-
just like you to concentrate on that.
I'm not opposed to, developing it, but let's stick within.
It's our neighborhood.
Yeah. the
And I'm sure
neighborhood
you
and the
understand, your
regulations.
neighborhood is your neighborhood. You don't want it
So,
changed into something
know-
else, because that's why you moved there. That's why we've lived there for 42 years. We love Monroe,
So to.
and we appreciate your effort.
Yeah, so, once again, just to allow a change to get cluster, just so you can get more houses to make it economically
This is
feasible.
probably something you should bring to planning and zoning when their application is there. We're wetlands, so we have to review the plan they give us.
I understand that, but from my perspective is you didn't start out with looking at a 2 acre approval wetlands plan, right?
They did propose,
But did you folks do it? Did you folks get a chance to review it?
it
Didn't
was,
you get a chance to
it was
review
one of the prudent and feasible alternatives was the 2 acre plan. That's what he first put forward. The cluster subdivision doesn't allow them to increase the number of lots. So if they could have,
I understand, but you're reducing the size of the lots and you're packing the houses in my opinion, that's still like a cluster housing.
look and feel is not going to be the
Got
same
it,
as driving
understood.
down a country road.
Right, and we're allowed to, we're only allowed to look at the regulations as they currently are, and they currently allow for this type of.
I
So,
understand.
what,
I just want to share.
we appreciate where you're
what
coming
you're
from.
working with and your constraints, et cetera, but I'd also like to share our perspective. I believe I have the right to do that, correct?
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
That 2 acres was not accepted ever as a prudent and feasible alternative.
I don't think the discussion was a prudent and feasible alternative. I think his question was, has this commission seen the conventional subdivision of a 2-acre plan?
That is one of my questions, yes.
And the answer is yes. He proposed that as the prudent and feasible alternative. We're not discussing if it is a prudent and feasible alternative. The question was just asked, has this commission seen that plan? And you do have access to that plan.
But did you deny that plan or did you approve that?
Not under this commission, that would have been under planning and zoning, and planning and zoning has not seen a conventional 2-acre subdivision.
Is there anybody else in the chambers that would like to come up and speak? Anybody online who would like to come up or speak? Then I think at this point we should continue this to the next meeting.
Which is what date?
The 26th,
26.
March 26th.
Sidewalks. I know multiple of you have mentioned site walks. So before you leave this agenda item.
I will try to set up a site walk for beginning of next week.
It's probably gonna.
Which would give us time. I'll put multiple dates. I'll need to get permission from the property owners and we'll try to set that up for the beginning of next week so that we can have time to review it.
Do you know if the property owners are open to permitting a site walk?
Don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay.
Can't imagine it would be. It's gonna be a lot to get done in 2 weeks though, so we'll talk about that, I guess, if we have to extend, we have plenty of time.
Yeah.
Just as a heads up, as far as commissioners go, how many would like a site walk?
I would. I know Monday and Tuesday don't work for me next week, so that, like, if that's when it's possible, then I would not stop anybody from doing it without me.
We could also do multiple site walks. I just need a heads up on that.
And
We will have public will also be able to
if you form.
join on the site walk. If we have more than 3 commissioners, then public is allowed to join us on the site walk.
I don't know if my client's gonna be accepting of that.
Understood. So just so you guys know, we talked thoroughly with attorneys that have literally written the book, what's legally required. If for some reason we can't figure out a solution for this and a site walk is not permitted by the owner, that doesn't actually prohibit this commission from being able to make a decision. The idea is the applicant should be able to provide enough information that even if you don't have a sidewalk, the commission still has everything that they need in order to make a decision. But hopefully we can schedule a couple, of which case then the commission can go. The only issue is Andrew would need to be there for every single one of them because you have to do the same path through the site both times. Everybody has to see the same things through the walk. And I know you all already know this, but you cannot ask questions unless it's related to the location of the land, the location of the mapping. You can't discuss anything past that. And again, the idea is the same items are looked at and discussed the same in each one of the sidewalks.
Not discussed.
Or not.
Not discussed.
Not discussed.
One of the road or something, maybe?
I'm most interested in those 2 lots. I mean, I think that there are other areas of interest, but site 13 and site 1 are the 2 that are most interesting.
Well, that, and I think 11.
11 is
I'm happy to go and put stakes on the center line of the road every 100 feet or something.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd make it easy for us.
Keep me abreast of when you're gonna schedule them, so try to make sure I'm.
I'm going to shoot for middle of next week.
Okay, so I'll plan for first of next week, I'll get out there. If I can't get there before you, then, it'll be under, but I'll try.
bring a compass.
You know, that's really appreciated. That helps us a lot. And it would cut down our time on, because right now,
I could look around there.
Jason, I'll actually meet you out there while you do that, so you could kind of orient me.
Yeah, I can have my-
I could orient them.
Keep you posted. That's all for.
Do we need a motion to continue?
We do not need a motion. We'll just continue this at the next meeting on March 26th.
Presentation stuff. Just got the presentation document that I just.
Great. Yeah.
Everybody.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to,
If you want to deliberate on 46 Huntingtown Road tonight, you could do that.
yep. I think we can deliberate on that. Straightforward. All right. This is going back to the
Husky Pond.
pond. Does anybody have any comments or concerns or things they want to discuss about it? You guys just want to go right into a vote? Gusky Pond again. So. Is that right?
I want to know how I get my own seal like James DeMeo.
That's pretty nice. I was thinking.
No.
I'm joking. No, no question.
We can get you one of those.
You can get me.
Other than Commissioner Kelly's question about the seal, do we have any other questions or concerns? No. Okay.
Before you make the motion, does anybody have any additional conditions to an approval? Okay, standard conditions?
They've already registered it as a dam.
Yes.
Okay, so that doesn't need to be there. So I'd make a motion that we approve the application as submitted.
We have a motion by to approve. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Moving on. I guess we're skipping all the way down now to enforcement. You don't have any activity reports, so enforcement.
First item up is IWV 2024-03, file number 1495 at 68 East Village Road. It was removing vegetation and filling in of potential wetlands. This came to you a while ago, so I'll just sort of refresh you. The active violation stems from the property owner's desire to construct a detached garage and a driveway all within an upland review area. He did obtain a curb cut permit by Public Works, but exceeded the limits of disturbance. And that's what triggered the violation. Mr. Cusio was here back in September, and the commissioners gave Mr. Cusio 3 choices to remedy the violation. He's here tonight to present his proposal. You all had it in your packets, what he's proposing on this property. The options that we had given him back in time was to either leave all the material in place and add plantings. If we did that, that would require an administrative IWR, so a remediation plan administratively, or could be administratively. The other option was to remove the material that was put into the wetlands and stabilize the site with seed, and that would also require an administrative remediation plan. And the third choice was, if the commission's receptive to this concept of this proposal that's in front of you, then the applicant can move forward with an IWC application for this project. And with that, the remediation to the violation can be incorporated into that IWC application.
Cliff Cusio here.
And Cliff
Just to
Cusio.
amend that one statement you said that the gravel's in the wetlands, it's actually
In the upland review area.
and I second the motion for Mr. Kelly to get his own seal.
We'll send you the bill.
Everybody, I want to apologize for the delay getting back to you all. It's at the second call of my engineers, who my project was not big enough. They had a large, missed the last week because of personal issue, many funerals in that week, so I apologize for getting back so late. The plan in front of you is engineered from the soil engineers that I use, which is William Kenny Bill. Since he had the information in the system, I asked him if he could put the exact measurements of those wetland flags onto his grid, which he did. And then I asked him to give me what he would recommend for a rain garden.
Rain garden.
Rain garden. And with respect to the driveway going in, I don't know what the setbacks are, so here I created a setback. If there was no setbacks required and that driveway closer to the property line, there's a minimum, I think, 3 trees that are, 2 of which are dying, minimal disturbance to the growth there, but still put a rain garden. So there's a path of least resistance that is closer to the property line. You'll notice that we placed the garage where at least is the farthest from the inlet, the wetlands, which puts it almost outside of the wetlands review, because if you look at the scale, the wetlands are the red flags, and that garage is approximately almost at 100 feet or maybe 105 feet from those flags. So we tried to, after I walked it with Andrew, we tried to put it where it would least disturb anything. And again, path of least resistance with growth and trees. If the setbacks are less than what I have here, we'd probably touch just 3 trees, with 2 of which are top dead. So
I don't see what would be the problem with this and why he couldn't move forward with an application if, he's got the good separation from the wetlands.
I think their issue at the time was the old wetland delineation was 25 years old, and with all the rain and everything, I think what Kathleen and Andrew wanted to see was a reflagging, and we used William Kenny. The reflagging shifted a little bit out at the back side, which is away from the garage. He went out and he modified it and brought those flags closer to the property line, but they're beyond the garage, so it didn't really. So I think that was a concern. It wasn't that this wasn't doable. It's just we weren't sure where the wetlands were at this stage of the game 25 years later.
So could you remind us when that reflagging was done? Was that another soil test that was?
Yeah, it was a soil test twice. It was done by William Kenny's sent somebody out. Then Bill came out himself to talk to him, and he did it again. He just wanted to double check because of,
When?
It was in the last 2 months.
October, November.
That's fine.
October.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think it's October.
And then I think the other question, having trouble finding where your dwelling is on this.
If you look in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, so that's yours. That's not.
Yeah, my house is the house
Oh,
of the garage line. So it's like
about 20.
Okay, we weren't sure if that was yours or the.
And then I have a lower garage, which you see in the middle is a little rectangle.
So in order to get to your house from the proposed garage, you have to walk down your proposed gravel driveway along East Village.
You go up East Village and then into, yes. And that was the whole purpose of this back in, God knows, when Union, I want to name names, people might not know, but back about 14, 15, 16, 18 years ago, I was trying to get to that by crossing the stream, and there was just no feasible way without Army Corps of Engineers and the town saying, no way, come in from the road. So this was just a revisiting of, I had many surgeries since then and didn't have the energy to even address this. So now I'm trying to get this, so.
And the neighbor who's complaining is behind you, up above?
I'm not sure who's complaining or why, but I have a neighbor to the right along that property line, which, I've met them several times. They're friendly.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. I've been out there doing the measurements and laying sticks and things. His kids, and nobody said anything to me. Johnny Natowski lives in the back. Last conversation I had with his wife was she's okay with this, but then that was before I think you got a call that there was a concern about something over there.
When you say in the back, what do you mean by in the back?
There's an easement right there through the, where you see there's a driveway that goes through my property down the middle. Between the house and that proposed garage, there's a,
Oh, I got you. Okay.
that's an easement 600 feet long to a house that's landlocked in the back. This used to be the Musbeck farm. The sister lived in the back and the brother lived in the front in a cottage.
So are these considered two separate properties?
No, it's one property.
One property with an easement running through
The
it.
driveway bisects the property.
But there's a second proposed driveway, so there will be two driveways? Is that what we're?
To this, there would be two driveways.
It's
There would be,
Good question. I think,
this driveway connects to the easement driveway.
Does it?
My question to you is, do you know of other concerns from neighbors? You answered it by saying that you're friendly to the people to the, I don't see where the.
well, I talked to both of my, I only have two neighbors and there's 400 acres of woods, so I only have these two people.
No, it's the people on the eastern boundary, so very close to the proposed garage.
Right, correct, right, and that's Brian. Brian is, his wife still lives in the house. She's
Right.
an Alzheimer's, so I'm not sure half the time she knows what's going on. I know the kids, I talk to, I mean, they see me out there working, you know, I go out there and pick up if there's garbage or something, and nobody said anything to me.
So what's your intention? You want
It's
to
a car.
build this?
It's a steel structure, it's.
You want to build, so you definitely want to move forward? So you're going to come in how long before you would apply for a permit?
I understand the permit's good for 5 years. I'd probably apply for the permit immediately, but, my daughter just bought a house this week in Kentucky. I'm leaving Tuesday to bring, help her settle in. My son, youngest son got engaged and he's going to South Carolina. I'm going down there next month to build a house for him. So probably would start this in July.
There's a number of concerns with the plan, but I just want everybody to know that this is a conceptual plan.
Yeah, we're not approving the plan, we're just.
Yeah, there's no limit of disturbance. We're not quite sure how the grading works. It
The
also needs,
Contours aren't shown
Yeah, they're-
we
here.
also need to run it by our zoning enforcement officer, who's the one that grants residential permits. I don't want to speak for him, but there is interpretation of, I believe most driveways have to, cannot be in the setback unless they're, crossing. So obviously they can be in the front yard setback and things like that. I don't know how many feet that is away from the property line. So, there are some
Driveways
additional.
can't be in the setback
Things.
unless they're rear lots?
Driveway, yeah, no, interior lots.
Interior lots?
You can have them in the access way, but that's not how we interpret the setbacks. It's the way that the setbacks are done is basically from the main square of the flag lot, you know what I'm saying?
I'm just pulling you.
Anyway, driveways and service roads for cross access are permitted in the required side yards, so required for cross access. So if you're trying to, get into your property, I would interpret that to mean you can't have it in the setback, but I'm not the one that interprets these regs for residential, so I would have to get a second consultant by our zoning enforcement officer, who's the one that does this consistently, because precedent matters. So how it's been interpreted in the past, I want to be consistent.
My feeling is he didn't do anything in the wetlands, apparently.
Well, that's why I want to get some clarification. Where are
okay.
we with the violation?
Okay.
And I don't see any
As
notes on
far
it.
as far as the violation goes, it was not in wetlands, it was in upland review area. If you'll notice, where the driveway comes in, where the proposed driveway is coming in, just to the left of that, there's been processed material brought in, okay? Probably within 15 feet of flagged wetlands.
So this driveway is not the exact location of where the highway curb cut?
Correct.
Oh.
So we still need to address that specifically.
That
Is that-
can be addressed if, the answer is yes, that violation needs to be corrected.
And it sounds like he's not going to start anything until the end of the summer. So I don't think we can wait that long to get this addressed. This violation's been going on for over a year now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't understand why we're not addressing that specifically.
And just to play devil's, if I remember correctly, because I was at the last meeting that this was here, I don't think the assumption was that it would take this long for him to come back. But I think we do often allow people to remediate violations at the same time as they do inland wetland commission applications. But I think the assumption was he was going to turn it around much quicker than he did.
Right.
And the assumption is that you're going to build this quicker. So if you're talking about the permit being 5 years,
Right.
and it might take you 5 years to do that, I think that's
I
what
think we need to carve this off.
Chairman Lundstrom's concern is
Address
that
the
the time.
violation, and if you want to apply for this separately.
Yeah, how would that even, would we close the violation for him to be able to submit an application, or would the violation remain open?
The violation would remain open, and it would be a condition of the approval of the application to address and remediate the violation, whatever that means, whatever the commission decides the remediation.
If that application just keeps dragging on and dragging
And the
on.
violation stays on there.
Right, but it doesn't get fixed.
It doesn't get fixed.
Right, and we're here to get this fixed.
Could we talk about the violation? So,
Can I just interject for, just get my thought out, right? So in October, when you were here, I very clearly remember, because you walked up here with a box of tissues, you weren't feeling well, right? There were 2 recommendations that we said you probably want to come back with to address. I don't recall what that was. We could look back at the video. But like my concern is, are we coming back with saying, okay, I addressed one of those recommendations? So like, why are we not picking up straight from that point when we last spoke about this in October, right? Or I think it was October or November.
I think at that time, part of our ask was, or not ask, but our recommendation was, if you plan on moving forward with something, to show us what that would look like as part of this resolution.
Right.
I think we did say that.
Yep.
right?
That's exactly right, and that's why you have this plan in front of you.
Plan is not like you mentioned before, there's no grading on here, like.
this isn't the final. I was told to draw something, and I asked the engineer, since you already have all this in your system, give it to me so I have the scales.
Right.
I would have did this by hand and submitted it, but I just had him. This is not.
We actually gave him the option before going into detailed drawings that he would accrue all those costs.
Right.
He wanted to see a concept of what he was planning on doing, to see if we were open to the concept of what he was doing.
Because the issue is if you're not open to this concept, if you don't think this is anything you guys would entertain to approve,
Then we deal with the violation.
he shouldn't have to now do a full set of plans that addresses the violation, does this, we give a time frame, things like that. If that's the case, if this isn't even something you guys would entertain independent of the violation, then he just needs to address the
So,
violation.
yeah, I think we will entertain this, but hearing what we're hearing and the experience that we had is we got to get the violation addressed.
How far away is what he did from the proposed driveway?
Okay, so
So it's right on the edge?
so
So it's
the,
like,
so the opening.
if he does this, it's gonna effectively resolve the violation.
He would have to show in more detail.
Where the actual fill
Where
is.
it actually
and-
was, what the remediation would consist of, what the planting would consist of, how that would be changed. And honestly, he would have to get a new highway curb cut because he's not using the same exact highway curb cut.
No, this is, the curb cut is exactly what
It
it is.
is exactly.
It's just that when he went in, we angled it because originally we were gonna go closer to the property line. And in my rendering here, I went straight in. So the curb cut is exactly where it is. My plan was to go in on an angle and then go up the side of
Got
the
it.
property line. This is when I went straight in.
I mean, if he's gonna come in with an application, it doesn't make any sense to dig it up and then come back a couple months later
I
and,
think that,
and
That was the-
and dig it back again.
Right,
That was the whole
That
idea.
was the concept.
That was the whole
But
idea.
then hearing that, how, this is still good for 5 years and I may not start right away, it means the violation's going to remain without being addressed.
Well, once he
And
gets
it's been there for a year plus already. And that's my
Well, I think
concern.
that if he gets a permit, then you could put a time limit on dealing with the
You
violation.
could make,
But he could put the driveway in and he's
You could
gotten,
separate.
he's
You could
gotten out of the upland review area potentially, and then he could do the rest.
you could separate the two issues with an approval of an application. You could make a condition that the violation gets addressed and fixed with a certain time frame. The rest of the project, no?
I don't think legally you can do that. I think what you would do is you'd separate the applications, which you had talked about earlier today, which was one of your suggestions, which was excellent, which is you would do a remediation application.
Yep.
And then you would do an IWC application. The remediation application, you could put a shorter time frame on it, but you would make sure that they were compatible in the sense of that the remediation application takes into consideration the future improvement, so you're not double doing it.
So conceptually, I think we're all okay, so long as we get more detail, grading and all that stuff.
Quantifying the amount of trees that are coming out, where the limit of disturbance is.
So if this is the future plan, great. But then I think we've got to address the violations separately. Like you said, let's separate them, deal with this one, and then conceptually, we're okay with this, assuming more information.
Okay.
And I don't see why we wouldn't be. But then we can address the,
Would you like to see the remediation plan administratively or IWC remediation? You're talking about,
I just don't know how you get a remediation plan if you're proposing to put a driveway on top of it. You know what I mean?
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, so I think what I'm hearing in terms of what kind of needs to be done from a commission level to make sure that the process is still moving forward, I could see it being more of like okay, putting more of the stipulation that, you know, you got to submit design plans in an application in the next 6 months, and the remediation is going to be tied to that. However, I also agree there's not much in the way of a remediation that's going to end up happening, because if you grant the approval for the driveway to be in pretty much the same location, then at most he's installing silt fence, and which he would be doing as part of his application. So it's kind of like personally, I think the biggest thing would be to just have more of a harder timeline of when an application is going to be submitted. Because again, all the work for the remediation, he's not far in, and the driveway's going in the exact same spot, more or less. At his current location is actually further away from the wetlands than where he's depicting it currently. So it's, you know what I mean? I think that's the more beneficial route, is to know when an application is going to be submitted, so that then he can get his permit and start.
4 months away.
I would get the permit immediately. I'm just saying I probably wouldn't get in there and start the project.
Okay, so you'd apply fairly.
I would apply immediately, but I probably wouldn't get it started until July when I get back.
can we put something in there? Because I know we talked about, with the violation, some sort of a penalty. If there's.
We could move to a citation.
Right.
I mean, you can direct Andrew that if the violation isn't remediated by this date, then it moves to a citation.
Okay. So Lisa, that's what I'm concerned with. We just keep kicking the can down the street and we never get to it. So at some point, we gotta resolve it.
And then although the permit's good for 5 years,
Right.
you're also accruing fines as you.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? So, we could say, all right, this is good, and then 5 years down the road, he's like, I don't feel like doing it. And we still got a violation, we haven't addressed anything, and it's been
Well, you have
now
to,
6
we have to
years.
give him 2 timeframes, one for the violation, one for.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get, I'm trying to,
And if he chooses to put the remediation of that violation tied to this project, that's his decision.
right, but that's what I'm saying,
But you can direct Andrew that if the violation is not resolved, and I would consider resolvement being the closing out of that permit by X date, it moves to the citation process, which accrues
how do we
fines.
define X date?
Well,
What?
Is it 5 years, X date?
What do you mean?
You said at some point we can put in a,
If you say to him, if this isn't resolved in 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is,
Okay.
I want you to issue a
so it's got
citation,
nothing to do with when the permit itself
it
expires.
could be completely separate
Okay,
timelines.
that's all.
I guess I think you guys are thinking too much about this, because to me, if he gets a permit to put in a driveway to a garage, and what he's done is not disastrous, and it's right there, he's got a permit, and it's gravel, and it's not eroding, then having him take a couple years to do the project is not impacting the wetlands more than him building the road and his driveway. Now, I agree with you. If at some point he doesn't do any of it, he should dig it out. But
That's what I'm trying to get to that.
And I
At
think
what
that if
point?
he built the driveway in the next year and a half and got out of the wetlands back to where he's out of the upland review area, he could take his sweet time to build the garage because he's 100 feet away from the wetlands.
I'm going to ask a couple questions that I think
Exactly
put
what I
some of
was-
this into context. Is your house for sale?
Not yet,
It's not for sale by private ownership?
not any longer.
I didn't
What
want.
happened was I was supposed to build a house for me down south last year.
Okay.
My son got engaged. My wife decided to work one more year.
So staff had seen the house for sale. So I think part of our concern with the timeline to support, Chairman Lindstrom is that we didn't know if he was going to stay for another 5 years because, it's been up for sale, things have been sold from the house. And
It went up for sale last August privately because I thought I was going to leave by December. And it never went to a realtor, never went to MLS. It's not listed. But I'm just curious to know, like, I would put that garage there anyway because it would boost the value of the property when I sold. Because otherwise it's dead land.
Correct, but I think part of the concern from staff's perspective was that you're correct, it never went to a realtor, it was private sale. So there was concern that most realtors come in and see us and say, hey, are there any active violations on this property? And if it was being done through private sale, we were concerned about that.
I'm well aware that if I sell a piece of property that has violations or issues with town, I have to clear those to sell the house.
You don't have to clear those to sell the house. If somebody else buys it with
Really?
its violations, they take on the violation.
You're supposed to disclose.
You have to generally disclose them.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens civil-wise to that, of them coming back to you because you didn't disclose the violation, that's between the two of you, but the violation runs with the land, it does not
So,
run with you.
to-
So
to
legally,
Ms.
the violation doesn't close.
Understood. And I have to tell you, I'm impressed with the way you just rattled off stuff tonight. And all these regulations. I would have put a gun on his.
Is that going to help with your decision, by the way?
I could see if you like it. No, I had to just say that. But to Mr. Stewart's point, my plan was to immediately, once I find out how close I gotta run that gravel driveway in, because right now it's angled toward the property line, and that's what happened. When he put the culvert in, as proposed by the engineer, when he filled, there was a stone wall there, and his permit that he got went so many feet, but to the discussion here, he should have stopped at the stone wall. So he dropped on an angle, roughly 11 feet of 6 to 8 inches of gravel. Now, if you're telling me to make all of you people happy, I will pull that gravel back up to the other side of the wall, and that all goes away. But to your point, mine would immediately get that gravel driveway in, at least past where you're comfortable. Because once I get to that point, you're right, I am 120 feet from the wetland. So why do I have to do anything further right away?
So
I would run that, as soon as you tell me which trees I should be cutting, I would just immediately get that gravel driveway in, and then I would get the rest of the design done. I'm not stick building this either. It's gonna be constructed in one day by a company who comes in and puts the garage up. It's a steel garage. It's a structure just for storing motorcycles and extra cars, and my lawn tractor.
One correction. I'm sorry, one correction. The back corner of the garage, are you saying that's 100 feet away from?
The back corner isn't, no,
No.
Well, so
because again, that line comes in.
then the scale of this, right? Because if you look at the street coming in from the street where that angle is, by the scale that's on this drawing, it's about 100 feet. So if you're saying now the back corner of that garage is less than 100 feet, the scale of this drawing is way off, right? We just kind of measured it down. So that's what I was saying about the scale rating.
Right.
This
is a conceptual plan, so all the details have to.
Again, but he's back multiple times. Why are we going back to conceptual plan, right? Because my comment would have been the same thing is, hey, if you're already 100 feet away from, you're not in the upland review area anymore, so why are we even discussing this?
His driveway going in is closer.
If I pull that garage forward.
Not according to this scale.
So no, to your.
That's 20 feet here, so that says it's like 20 feet away, at least the scale.
It's 100. We just measured it.
Well, is this scale for this?
Which one?
Is that scale for this?
No,
this scale's
it's
here.
up there, over here's the scale. It's not very well done, but that is.
Feels at the top, yeah.
So
But I mean, he could pull that garage back towards the road and keep it.
Yeah, so again, it's.
He's just gonna blow up if he doesn't say what he's gonna say.
I want to add one other thing. So, I think the violation should be tied to the issuance of a wetlands permit. The reason being is if he were to obtain a wetlands permit, he would start like any normal person would start construction on this driveway. Then if he stops anyway, it's already part of the approved permit. Therefore, the violation would kind of be tied to him obtaining that permit. Also, keep in mind, in order to pull the permit, he will have to post a inland wetland bond to help motivate him to complete the work and stabilize the site. So it's just an S&E bond. Sorry, Mr. Kusi. I saw you jerk your head.
I know you needed new tires on your truck, that's why I got nervous.
No. It's an inland wetlands bond for every wetlands application. So, and it's just for site stabilization. So technically speaking, that's kind of where it kind of starts and stops. So again, if he obtains a permit, that violation should almost go away because again, if he's going to install a driveway, it's going in the exact same spot. And if the construction takes 5 years, you know, the commission, there's nothing any of us can do because that's within their right to construct for 5 years. It's not conducive to do it.
How far in would I have to go to remediate the violation? If I get a permit, how far in do I have to go?
We have to see better
With
plans.
that.
We have to see the final plan, so to really know the distances.
Okay. I mean, this is to scale in terms of the proposal here and where the flags are with regards to the property line. So.
I know I'm just having a hard time differentiating, you know, because if he gets.
James is saying if you get the permit, you're good.
Correct.
You're good. You don't have to do anything.
Correct.
But eventually you have to do your project,
If there's no setback for drive-
him to do is maybe put in a silt fence, but that'd be it. Like, and then it could take time as long as it's stabilized and protecting.
I think it's important. When do you plan on coming back with a set of plans and a permit application?
Yeah, can we do
So
something?
we can
in terms of giving him a window of
we'll
time?
give you this much time, but you better be back or we're gonna start our process.
Our citation process.
Right, so the driveway, so if I find out that I don't need a setback for the driveway in, the driveway is 100 going in other than where I have to get through here is outside of the wetlands review, so.
It's 20 feet away. It's 20 feet away. Like you just have to look at the closest point, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying, and that's where the violation is, it's right here because we stopped.
I'll plan review
11
area.
feet, I mean, we're only 30 feet, I'm sorry, we're 27 and a half feet in from the road. That's as far as we went. There's 7 to 8 feet of gravel that went beyond that stone wall that is, I'm in violation of it, where he tapered it down to meet the ground. So if you're telling me I just go in there and pull that back to the wall.
I think that's what we discussed in October, right?
Right, well, yeah, so, but it sounds like I'm still gonna be invited to it.
Do this and not have to worry
No,
about it.
I get it, but it sounds like there's gonna be a violation hanging over me in a time frame. If I just go in there with a bucket and pull that back, am I out of violation? And just put that
Throw some
gravel,
grass seed on it? Yeah, potentially.
no, just pull it back and put it up on the other side of the wall. That's a
Well, no, in the right of way is, anything off the road is within 100 feet. So you'd have to restore it back, take it all out and.
No,
And he has a permit within the right of way.
Oh, so you don't care about that,
It's not that we don't care,
but he has a permit.
but he has a permit.
Okay, so I
the
guess- so there you
Department of
go.
Public Works granted him a permit for the work within the right of way. We will honor that, but anything past the right of way from the property line into his property, that's the violation.
It's about 11 feet and it tapers anywhere from 3 inches up to 18 inches or so, I'm guessing. All right.
But to remediate, he would most likely have to pull it back in the right of way because you don't want to just to drop off like a bridge, you know?
So the cause was that the gentleman who did the work got a permit for 30 feet. He was supposed to stop at 20 feet. And he didn't. He went the full 30 feet according to the permit he received. So I've got some gravel that angles up toward the property line, and it's about 50.
Pull it out, I guess.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking. If it'll make this go away, I'll go in there and gently pull it out and put it into the other side of the wall on the opening. I'm gonna use it anyway, right? When I get the permit to put the driveway in.
Then you're gonna push
I'm
it
gonna
all
push- I'm
right
gonna put a
back.
lot more than
It's gonna wind up pushing it all right back to
Yeah.
where it
Yeah, but
was.
he's got no, he's
But
got
then the
no
violation goes
pressure.
away.
He's got no pressure.
Then he
Come
can
when
take
he
it
wants
what
to
time
do
as he
it.
wants. Right.
Just,
Okay.
just-
I'd rather get the permit and proceed with the gravel driveway in.
Yeah, am
Do
I
that.
wrong in saying, like, what we are talking about is not necessarily a violation looming over you, but the opportunity to submit an application by a certain point in time, or else the violation will become a citation? Is that within our?
That's where we
ability?
were last year.
so how long,
Well, we said to come back with.
how long
with,
before you come back with this, with an application?
I don't know what the
And
process.
keep in mind, it's
I'm learning.
taken this long to get to this point.
Well, it took this long because I hired William
Yes.
Kenny back in August.
Yep.
When I came, walked away, when I got violated, I hired Willie Kenny. It took him 2 months to get in there. Then it took him another 2.5 months to get the first drawing. And then I asked him, the first drawing was just a rough one. And I asked him to give me it to spec to, to scale and add the inception there. So again, I don't know what the process is for a permit, so I'm gonna
And-
learn.
He is very
And-
busy right now.
And Cliff has been keeping me up to date with all of those, and I could say positively that a lot of these delays were not his doing.
That's good to know, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure William Kenny can do it, so you'd have to get someone.
No, I have a surveyor, my surveyor, he'd have to come in and give us the elevations, right, and everything.
So how long?
I gotta call him, hey, I need you. Because they just had him out there.
I think it's up to us to make a time frame. I'll tell you this, one of the next things that we're going to talk about is another plan that William Kenny has to do for somebody, and he can't even get to the plan until.
I feel like it's not just the time frame that William Kenny could get back, because I just heard you
Yep.
have a wedding, you have to go down to South Carolina. Like, are you going to be available, right?
No, so again, if I have to get a permit first, right? But if you're telling me that if I just go pull that gravel back while I'm getting the permit, the violation goes away, and now I'm just trying to get a permit, I'll just pull the gravel back to the entrance and stack it there, right? On the other, it's gonna move 11
What do you mean
feet.
by stacking? I mean, I just
I'm
don't.
gonna put a pipe, so right now there's a gravel driveway, right, with a culvert that we put in, that goes beyond that stone wall, which you said I should have stopped, right? So all I'm gonna do is take it and pull it back to the other side of that stone wall, so it's sitting there
gonna
on
be a
my
pile.
driveway, on my driveway
I don't
entrance.
consider that to be.
All that material,
I don't think the
I would say all that
public works guys would
material,
be happy.
I would say all that material has to get pulled away, unfortunately.
And driven
It's
away.
gonna- driven away,
Right.
right.
Piled up somewhere else in a
But
way.
then once this goes forward, then we gotta bring it back again.
Stack it on the loop of my driveway.
Yeah, put it on your driveway.
No, well, I'll stack it over, bring it down, but again, it's,
Oh, God.
All right, so you want to clear the violation first, and
If he's willing to clear the violation, we
I
can
think
allow
we
him
give
to
him, I
clear
think
it.
we give
That's
him,
fine.
we give him until July to either clear the violation, come in with a permit. And then he can make his choice.
Okay.
how long?
How do we do that?
to get a
Okay.
permit?
I mean, we just say. that
The
that's
permit
July.
process, once you
we're
have
gonna-
all your
and-
drawings and
Get a
everything,
Permit or
quick.
apply for a permit? July, he has to
No,
get a
but
permit.
apply.
Apply
For a permit
by
or
July.
clear the violation. If you don't come back by July, then we
Sad.
take our next step, which is
I
Make
will
it-
add,
July.
most surveyors,
July
most
soon.
surveyors are 2 to 3 months out.
That's what I'm saying. He can call. It doesn't matter what his schedule is. All he's got to call and say, get the work done. And then he can go to his weddings and whatever he's got to go on. And if you can't get it done by July and you want to, and you're late, maybe a little letter, an email from your engineer saying he hired me in March and I haven't been able to get to it.
And that's what I sent Andrew, and when I sent the agreement.
that's what happened with,
Yeah, I sent a contract from William Kenny from back in August to him to show him. I hired William Kenny, and Kenny didn't get out there until end of September, October.
So, I mean, if we're talking about July, and because of the fact that surveyors take time, I think that critical point of interest for you is that you should get on top of connecting and letting them know that this is a project.
Yeah.
So that plans can be drawn so that in July, you're not waiting that. Like if you wait until the beginning of May and you start the process, it's going to be a problem.
No, I would literally start this week. I mean, I'm traveling, but I still work from remote.
I think I said this back in October too, like, we're just trying to help you out, right? But the accountability is on you. It's not on William Kenny or anybody else.
No, I understand.
You know, I mean,
I did what I was.
to this point, you have to.
I get it. I can't, but I can't go down with a gun and tell William Kenny, get out there faster.
Nobody's asking you, by the way, to use.
And I sent him the contract as soon
I
as.
think there's a better survey.
Listen, I went with the recommended one from this, I went with William Kenny because I was told that William Kenny is highly recognized.
Yeah.
By this. Remember I told you.
I would not suggest using somebody.
All right, let me go what the conversation was. Hey, Andrew, I hired William Kenny, but I'm not sure I should trust his flags because I think he's friends with John. He said, no, we know William Kenny. He does a lot of work. We see a lot of his work.
Certain work
He's very
done by
reputable.
William Kenny.
So because of that second, I mean, he's reputable, I hired him. I didn't say you told me to, but I went with William Kenny because I knew nobody else to go to. Who else do I go to?
Well, I think so. Again, I think if we're
But
thinking
again,
July.
I don't know this, this is all new. to me. I mean,
Application or citation by July, on March 12th, it seems like there's enough time for that all to be put on, and an application to be in front of us by.
And if there is no application in front of us by July, then the violation needs to be,
Then he should be in front of us.
Right.
okay.
The start of
And then we'll
July.
I'd
decide,
say like if like,
we'll decide at that meeting. Right?
yeah, it's
Just
just,
comes with us.
I think the one thing that I will say is that there are reasons that have been expressed for why it's pushed since last September to now. And I respect that life happens. I have I'm not challenging that. But like, I don't want to get to July and talk about how life delayed the process again.
Right.
I want it seems like that's a fair runway to get an application.
That's a little bit of a rub and an insult, the way you stated that, but no, I'm not gonna do that.
No,
How many times, listen, I've been in your office, how many times? James, how many, I mean, I've been in your office, how many times I've come to you in the last, right?
I appreciate that.
I have been trying to push this as a landowner as best I can. Every week I've been trying to work on it. So I'm not sitting back blaming
I
someone.
don't think anybody's.
Nobody's.
I'm just letting you know.
We're just,
I'm pushing people.
we're not
No insult.
complaining about, or insulting, but we're not complaining about your lack of effort. But we're here to deal with the facts and outcome, right? Like, we have to look at the outcome. Because you've been trying for I'm just making it up 3 years, which I know hasn't been that long. That's not our concern. Our concern is what is the outcome? And if we don't see a valid outcome that we could approve, we just have to go by what we're guided by, right? So I think that's a very lenient, time period.
And knowing that there's a delay, I asked to have this done more detailed scale recommendations for planning. So I didn't come in with just, 6 months later with just a concept. I made, this is actually minus all the engineering marks. That's the scale and that's where it's going. So I put a little bit more effort into this, knowing that I was coming late and that I wanted to show you more. I mean, I wasn't asked to show what's going to go in my rain garden.
No, I will say, just so hopefully we can move forward.
Yeah.
I think you did exactly what we asked you to do. I think we all would say we would have loved to have had it come before us sooner. But I think you did, based on the last time you were here and we discussed this. I think that you've done what we suggested that you should do. So now it's just about the next step and moving towards completion and closure and remediation, if not moving forward with an application.
Tomorrow or tonight, tomorrow's an open email from me and these two gentlemen saying, can you send me the permit and for me the materials? Sure. I'm going to get that. I'm going to start filling out. I'm going to find out what I need. I'm going to contact the people I need to go to get what I need for that. And I'm going to submit that permit as soon as I get all the information. But again, I don't know how detailed I don't know what you're looking for in terms of elevations for the whole property, just for the area.
There's a whole list of regulations
Okay,
that the plans need to depict. And I will send that to you.
If you reach out, call or stop in, I'll help you on that one too.
Thank you, James.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Moving on.
Apply for a permit by July 9th or 23rd.
Whatever,
or come back to the,
whatever our first July meeting is.
Ninth.
the 9th.
There it is.
Got it. Okay.
Do we typically, when we get into the summer months and I guess that's a busier time. So we have a tendency to have 2 meetings in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cliff, I will speak to you tomorrow.
We gotta
Okay,
push. We gotta push.
I know it's out after here, that's it.
You guys started meetings earlier.
I know.
And then I was
We gotta
trying to
move
get
on.
out earlier than my plan.
I know, you're like the grim reaper of meeting length.
Actually,
You're here.
Okay.
actually, the last,
It's gonna be a longer night.
it's not bad. The last meeting Mr. Puseo was at was a 5-hour meeting. He was at the end. He was at the end, so.
That's our punishing you.
Commenting and everything, because I was getting home.
Okay, go home. We can finish our night.
Cliff, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Everybody have a good week. And
Moving on to, Lorraine Drive.
Okay, IWR 2025-01, file 1511, 20 Lorraine Drive. I've been working with the applicants to develop the plan that's in front of you right now. It was in your packets. The plan consists of 30 native shrubs, 3 native trees to be planted along the edge of an existing lawn, installing wetland markers. I left off silt fence as I thought that installing the silt fence would be more disruption than not having the silt fence and just planting the plants.
What did they do wrong?
They cut down some trees that were in upland review area.
Ooh.
And they were significant. There were 7 of them.
The couple that came in, it was
Yes.
because they were,
Yes.
they viewed them
One
as a
tree
risk,
falling or
a safety
propped their
risk.
house already, something?
Yes, in the past, a tree had fallen from in the same area where these trees originated from and nearly hit their house. So it was a safety concern. They had the trees cut down, but then there was a complaint that trees were being removed in the wetlands. Went out, took a look at it. Really in upland review area, not in wetlands, but still in very close to wetlands. So they created a violation by cutting those trees down. So this is the remediation plan.
What do you think of it?
I developed it with them, so this was sort of my suggestions. I could tell you they wanted to do a lot less. I would have a hard time actually fitting more in there because the rest of that wood line is pretty heavily wooded. So by putting 30 shrubs in, 3 native trees that will not be 70-foot trees, I think is a fine answer. I think it enhances the wetlands that are there. I think it creates a visual barrier to keep people out by putting the markers in. They won't, they'll know not, or even the next owners will know not to go into the wetlands, or at least know that they're there.
Are there any other large trees that are perceived risk behind those?
The answer is yes. Yeah, I mean, they're not perceived risks as of today. 10, 15 years from now, quite possibly, but like I said, the wetland markers will be up.
Yep.
It will inform whether it's these, the next owners.
Right, I believe that if they'd come in for a permit before, instead of asking for forgiveness or remediation after, then we would have given a permit. So, but now they know that there's a permit. I personally was concerned that there was a number of aged trees there. But going through this with you, I think it's a fine plan, and I appreciate, what they're doing, and I think they learned. I don't think they're going to be cutting down trees without coming to us again.
I think you're absolutely right about that. So I will go ahead and process it.
I have
Yeah.
one comment here
Mhm.
that I would agree that if everybody, the same direction everyone's pointing to, conditional upon one thing. If you look at the property card of this property,
Yep.
it shows that there's a generator to the right side of the house, and generators usually are attached to propane tanks. So I would just say, conditional, just to make this diagram complete,
Yeah.
because there are some I believe if number 3, is that a planting? Number 2, is that a planting? That could potentially be where the propane tanks are, and they don't want to be digging anywhere near where those underground propane lines are,
You
right?
showed it at the property line.
So just for safety?
So a safety concern,
Yep. So
show us where the,
look at the property card, and I believe it's right here, somewhere over here. Okay, so that means that there might be propane tanks.
You can see that.
We
can't
I
you?
will
look at the
talk-
building permits
Yeah.
and the zoning permits and see if there's anything for those areas that gives us more information.
Great, thanks. You could also look at Google Maps.
Or something they pulled the permit for.
They did, because it's on the card, so, yeah.
Just because it's on the field card does not mean you have a permit.
Right.
The assessor will tax you for everything on your property, whether you have a permit or not. So all he does is look to see what's there. That doesn't mean it's a valid permit.
But definitely commend you on the guidance of this layout, of all the shrubbery and everything. I think that was great guidance, so.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Need a motion?
No, give me, just one more second. Just because you asked about it at the last one.
So do you need a motion for the
Oh, no,
remediation?
no, you had already given me permission to do the administrative. You had already given me, approval to do this administratively, but you wanted to see what we came up with.
Okay.
So if there are no changes to this, it'll go through just as is.
So again, I just want to make sure that,
The propane,
because if you look at the site remediation form,
Yep.
it clearly calls out, if you have a generator or propane tanks on your
Yep.
property, you need to list it on the drawing, right? So.
I will make sure they have a valid permit for that, and I will make sure that they show it on the plan.
The permit is not what I'm, like, we're inland wetlands, right? Like, that's a zoning, issue, but I'm
Yep.
saying just for safety, if
Just
there's
make sure it's
going to be
You're not
digging.
planting something
Right.
that's gonna become problematic. for
Right,
lines.
right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Moving on.
Moving on, IWR, it's another remediation from 30 Pepperidge Road, if you'll remember.
Yeah.
30 Pepperidge Road created a violation on 197, and I just kind of wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Because I think somebody made mention that it was taking too long. The property line was marked by the surveyor. The wetlands have been flagged on 197 and on 30 Pepperidge. Soil scientist,
Hang in there, buddy.
the soil scientist gave a time frame of September before you can even work on a plan for the remediation. So I advised them to find another, and a landscape architect, a soil scientist, somebody's got to be able to do a plan with it, quicker than that. But that's what she showed me the email from them saying that they can't get to it until September. I'm not sure what else I can do other
We'll do landscaping. They can get it done,
Well, no, because we need a remediation plan.
but they can.
And this is going to be an IWR remediation plan. It's too big of a violation for me to come up with a plan for them. So it needs a professional to come up with a plan. And we're in spring, so,
Spring.
yeah.
They're slammed.
So I don't know what to do with that.
What, like October?
Yeah, November, the latest.
It was still warm when we were there.
Yeah.
Like, everybody feels like they're just kicking the can down the street.
Well,
Oh, we'll get to it eventually.
There were some limitations because they were waiting on a response from the owner of.
They were waiting on a response from the owner. They were waiting on the legalities for somebody to be on their property. But here we are. So is there any, that's all I could come up with was try to call around and find out. But
I mean, we could start pulling the, hey, if you don't get it resolved by X date, citations are gonna start.
You
I mean, that's
can
what
do
we're
that.
gonna have to do. I mean,
Do you have that in mind, though, that so he could preemptively say, hey, the commission is thinking about X? I strongly encourage you to find an alternative.
Yeah.
So what's your time? Like, what do you think? What are you thinking?
I don't know, I wouldn't have said July, but it's a valid point on the last application that it's gonna take guys a couple of months to, so I don't know. I'm open to suggestions.
That's really reasonable. I think July is very reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, if we wait until September, the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to get a plan in September.
Can't do anything.
Nothing's going to happen until
July.
Exactly.
That they submit a plan by July?
Yes.
Or that they are
Yes.
planted by, okay, a plan by.
Plan by July. That gives, what, 4 months for somebody to find somebody to put something together?
That's pretty good.
That's not-
To have a plan by July or the citations will,
Yeah, but we don't want to drag it on more than a year. It should be done next year, this year, 2025.
Everyone's flat out, those seals.
You're getting more seals. Hey, they don't check to see if you're licensed. They just do what you tell them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not their responsibility.
okay.
Being recorded now.
It's supposed to.
Anything
Steel
else?
people.
Minutes, I get, nothing else, no, continue on.
What about this?
This is correspondence.
Correspondence.
Oh, correspondence. Yes, correspondence. So we got a correspondence. You had it in your packets. It's from DEEP, and it is the reissuance of a permit to discharge for the Stevenson Dam.
So they.
And they're just kind of informing us that they're reissuing the permit. If anybody would like to petition for a public hearing, I would be happy to fill out the paperwork for that. But other than that, there's not much we need to do with it, just to be aware.
Right.
You could see that DEEP has taken precautions here, and this is all non-treated water. It's being tested for pollutants.
That means that it's free of pollutants.
It is free of pollutants.
It have a minimal amount, but it's not any regulatory problem.
It meets the regulations.
It's strange to see, especially 50 gallons of turbine leakage. I would think that would be, but okay.
From what it says, it's for cooling only, so it's not coming into contact with any.
Yeah, I without looking at the turbine, we wouldn't know, but still, it's just, okay.
All I could go by is what DEEP says. I'm not an engineer. I don't know.
So what is our action then?
Our action is nothing unless you want to petition for a public hearing.
It specifically states it needs to go to all the commissions, so.
They didn't do it in July.
Yeah.
Do that July 9th.
Okay.
All right, so moving on.
7th at 7.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got minutes.
I didn't see any issues with last meeting's minutes. I mean, there was nothing in here about James Mayo ruining the
I know.
recording, but I don't think I don't think that's needed. So
Would you like to have a quick discussion on that?
No,
We did it.
I really wouldn't.
Was I really there?
Were you really there?
Was I
You
there?
were not.
Was that why you're back with us?
You were not.
Oh, right.
I was not?
You were not.
So
It
it's.
says I was here.
It does say it. That's right. That is.
Are you not here?
There were 3 of us.
No, I believe you were not here.
No, he wasn't here because he didn't get a packet.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't get an invite.
I do have that on my notes.
Oh, you do?
I do.
All right, so
No.
somebody
Okay.
make a motion to approve the minutes as amended by removing Mr. Tucker.
I don't want credit for coming if I didn't come.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Suggested to amend the removal of Commissioner Stewart from the present list.
Oh, second.
Got a second?
Who seconded? Paul. Owens.
Abstained.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Abstained.
and 1 abstention.
So I have to abstain.
Yeah, right.
All right, we have 2 abstentions.
So you're abstaining. So you can't
You can't do
So
that.
the three
Abstentions.
Oh,
But he can't second it. No, he can second.
He can second it.
You just
He
can't
can
vote.
second it.
can't vote.
Sure.
He's abstaining.
I'm so sorry. It says under the meeting minutes from, these are the February 12th meeting
Did I
minutes?
vote?
Yes.
Yeah, it's saying you voted.
Oh, well, then I must have been
It
here.
said you abstained from the meeting minutes last time.
Oh, then I was missing the meeting before that. Okay, so I vote for the minutes, and I'm there.
And why don't we
I
make
get
it?
credit.
Can we undo what we just did? Fix this?
Missing a meeting last week really threw me off.
Yeah.
So I think you,
I'd start over.
Let's start over.
Let's delete
start
that.
over.
Rewind.
Let's go
Okay.
back.
Let's have a motion to, or do we have to eliminate some people who weren't here?
No,
Was there-
because
Was everybody
Motion to
here?
approve the
everybody
minutes.
on that list was here.
Everybody was here.
are we sure?
No, it's your motion.
You
You're
need
the,
to
you're the
check?
motion
Yeah,
guy.
you shouldn't be able to comment or vote on minutes for meetings you were not present for.
February 12th.
You can if you watch the
Yes,
meeting.
that's true. Okay, I get that, but
We just need to know who was here and who weren't.
You can make a motion for someone else to, you don't know.
You can motion, you just can't vote on it.
Jim Stewart made the motion.
Do you want me to
The minutes.
confirm? Do you guys want me to confirm or do you want to just move?
She's checking.
I voted.
You were here.
Yeah.
We're all here?
Bones was not here.
Not here.
Or Mark.
Or
Yeah, so
that the two?
the minutes are.
Correct.
So the minutes are correct.
Three,
Okay.
five. Okay.
I will file a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 12th. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
2 abstentions. Okay, we're good. Is that it?
Nope, one more thing on the agenda. Do you have anything for public outreach?
No.
No?
No.
All right, then you're good.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, motion to adjourn, somebody?
Motion to adjourn.
You have a second?
Second.
Adjourn.
Okay.